Lay down. Jesus fucking Christ. All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lunch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this. Even though you missed the live party, guys, that is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like. So hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never, ever, ever miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. Let's also say thank you to my6shirt.com, the only place to get your very own The Indian Jesus official merch. Only at my6shirt.com. All right. Welcome to the party. We got Opus in the building. Oh man, God damn it. Oh well. Demonetized. Oh well. I know I can count on you guys. Opus said Tucker needs a YouTube or Rumble channel because while X's streaming capability, it doesn't have an archive ability where a catalog of past videos are easily searchable. Yes, sir. And that is directly in line with our running poll. Should Tucker start a YouTube channel? Yes or no? And let me know why not. And this is a perfectly good reason. We are going to be checking out the Part of the Problem podcast from just, I think it was today or yesterday. I always love being able to talk about Dave Smith or talk with Dave Smith or cover Dave Smith. I think he just has a brilliant political mind for all this. And obviously, we love Tucker. The problem is that when, usually part of the problem, the podcast is Dave and his co-host, and there's a lot of like banter and just kind of conversational stuff, which is good. I very much enjoy it in terms of listening, but in terms of kind of using for the show, it's just a little bit out there. So when we got a big whale like this, definitely going to use it. As always, guys, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Part of the Problem. Ooh, I am excited for this one. I finally got him. My white whale. I finally trapped him here on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, needs no introduction. The man, the myth, the legend, Tucker Carlson. How are you, sir?
Dave, what do you mean, man? I texted you all the time. You never mentioned it till yesterday. I was like, of course.
I was working up the courage little by little to ask you on my show. Well, you text me to say a nice thing, like, hey, I really liked you on this. And then I feel like kind of being a jerk if I'm like, oh, can you do something for me?
Oh, I was totally honored. Are you kidding?
Yeah. So those of you who are actually like, oh, you should try to get this person. You should try to get that person on the show. Like, just because I've talked to X person before doesn't mean I have the pull to bring them on. But with your help, we will grow the platform and get our own Tucker guests.
No, I love it.
Well, thank you for coming on. I was thinking a little bit about this since we set this up yesterday. And then I had this weird moment this morning. I was just in my office and I glanced at my bookshelf, and there's this book that I really love. I'm sure you've read it. It was by Pat Buchanan called Suicide of a Superpower.
Yes.
I love all Pat Buchanan's books, but this one was very good. And I completely forgot this, but the subtitle of the book, do you remember it?
Right.
It was Will America Survive to 2025? And I was like, man, he really said that. And now sitting here in the end of 2023, I'm like 50-50 shot we make it.
If that. I mean, it's just profit without honor, as always. There's
profit without honor. profit. See, this is why we love Tucker.
There's really no crime that carries a greater penalty than being right ahead of time.
Oof.
I mean,
Yeah.
those are the guys, the people who are like forever.
That is a line. Shout out to Indy Film. Welcome to the party. Welcome. Let's run that back. What perfect timing for Indy. Check that line out.
As always, there's really no crime that carries a greater penalty than being right ahead of time.
There's no crime that carries a greater penalty than being right ahead of time. I mean, what can you say?
I mean,
Spot
those are the guys, the people who are like forever, predicting some crazy Dow spike or gold at 300 an ounce or whatever. Like they're totally fine.
Wish.
Nobody remembers Jim Cramer recommending, many years of bad stock picks. Totally fine.
Yeah. How is that guy still on the air? I mean, I get it. I get that, all corporate news is BS, but how is Jim Cramer still on the air? That's the guy that's like, you gotta buy, you gotta sell this. And he's just like, it's basically the insider trading avenue to make consumer stock traders do what all the institutionals want them to do. Like, who trusts him?
But the guy who calls the big picture correctly 2 decades out, he's relegated to his rec room and can never be seen in public again.
Yeah, and that goes all the way back through history. Think about Galileo when he was like, wait, guys, I don't think that the universe, or I don't think the Earth is the center of the universe. And they were not happy about it.
It's just so perfect.
And if you haven't read the book, it's not just that he's predicting like the decline of America. It's that he's specifically saying that we're bankrupting ourselves. We're destroying our currency. We have de facto open borders, which are changing the makeup of the nation. And, that we fight wars all over the world that are completely unnecessary to fight in. So it's not just that he called like the collapse. It's that he specifically laid out the main driving forces.
Where y'all at? Say hello if you're here. God damn. You just got Opus and Indie Film. Opus said, not that you guys aren't awesome. I'm just saying, we partying. I mean, if by now you don't realize that being a little crazy conspiracy theorist is a safe bet over the everything will be fine mentality, then you are probably screwed. Yeah, and this goes back to what I've been talking about recently about the line of whether sometimes we've done it in the context of Biden versus Trump or left versus right or liberal versus conservative. When you simplify it to the binary, which side you fall on really comes down to how much are you willing to entertain the idea that a so-called conspiracy theory could be real. So the more you believe them, the more you're likely to vote Democrat
for it.
No, it's totally true. And did it in a kind of, I mean, I knew Pat well because I worked with him for years. And, he was always being denounced as a hater and hating this group or that group. And in fact, I never smelled that on him. And I've got a pretty keen nose for, sublimated, suppressed rage. I never felt that on him. He was a cheerful guy and he explained his points in ways that were basically impossible to refute. And that's why they just dismissed him.
Well, he said the thing, because I remember he was always labeled an anti-Semite. And I'm Jewish, and so like I remember asking at one point, because I really liked a few of his books. I was like, so where's the anti-Semitic stuff? Like, where? Because I haven't gotten to any of that. Like, and usually people who hate the Jews are quite happy to tell you that they hate the Jews. It's like they want to tell you. Like, you're like, how's the weather? And they're like, the Jews control the weather. And you're like, all right, I wasn't.
That is a true thing about anti-Semitism that you don't necessarily see in other areas of bigotry. The willingness to come out and just be like, yes, I believe this. If you're just your average racist, then usually you're trying to hide a little bit the fact that you are in fact racist. But these anti-Semites are bold.
And they're making it rain.
Yeah, like I wasn't trying to go down that path, but okay.
They're making it rain.
The evidence I was shown was that he one time during the
all the anti-Semitism I see is on the left. Same. It's been recent. Now we've definitely had a huge upswing since 10/7, but even before that, I've been talking about like when people like would randomly be in the chat and bring up Jews this, Jews that. It's been bubbling up, and it's always either from some crackpot or and or from somebody on the left.
The first Iraq War, the Persian Gulf War in the 90s, he said nobody wants a war in Iraq other than some weapons companies and the Israel lobby.
Yeah.
And they went, see, he's anti-Semitic. And you're like, but that's what? That's just objectively true. Like, these were people who were lobbying for. I mean, like, how is that? That makes you a hater. But anyway, it's
and we're actually that's exactly right. And by the way, 30 years later, it's like there's kind of no denying that. And you can argue whether it was a good idea or not, or whatever. I think there are two sides to every argument, personally. But that's not a very controversial thing to say. I think what really wrote him out of Washington, where he literally couldn't work in DC anymore, was when he criticized Winston Churchill. And that was completely baffling to me. Again, Churchill is a complicated person. I personally think there are lots of things to admire about Churchill, but you can't say he helped his country. I was in London 2 weeks ago. Like that, they didn't win the war in any meaningful way. Like, he wrecked the country.
So yeah, that's another area where I gotta admit I'm lacking a little bit. I'm not very good with I understand World War II and which they're going to talk a lot about, and American history, and then just like global history in terms of the wars. But in terms of like what happened from the start of Winston Churchill's reign to the end, it's not as clear to me. So I definitely need to do a little bit more reading on that.
Yeah.
So I'm not English, so it's not my country, but I think it's fair to point that out. And for some reason, that was the red line. You couldn't criticize Winston Churchill. He's not even American. Like, what?
Well,
by the way, you can piss all over Thomas Jefferson. You're totally fine, but criticize Winston Churchill and like, oh, you're some sort of Nazi or something.
Yeah, they're tearing down statues of this, that, and what is he doing? They're tearing down statues of all the founding fathers and this and that. And I mean, okay, but there's an argument at least to be made for the Robert E. Lee statue. I wouldn't have agreed to tear it down, but at least there's a conversation there. But say anything about Winston Churchill? Oh my God!
And I think Pat partly didn't like him because Pat is a bit of an Irish nationalist. Maybe that was it, or whatever his motive. But like, that seemed like a fair topic of historical inquiry and analysis to me, but no.
Well, I would even go a step further than, I think people to some degree have been trained to like perceive it, any type of thought about World War II that is not just the conventional thought means like, what, you must be a Holocaust denier or something. But by the way, if you read Pat Buchanan's book, Churchill, Hitler, and the Unnecessary War, the whole thesis of the book is that the Holocaust happened during the war, and if we could have avoided the war, maybe we could have avoided the Holocaust. So there's like, the thesis is destroyed if you don't believe in the Holocaust. So like, that doesn't make any sense. But you get
that, and again, that's another one where it's like, what is it? How do you get to a place where you think the entirety of the Holocaust didn't happen? Now, I think if you're in the, from what I understand of Nick Fuentes, I think his position isn't that it like just didn't happen, that the numbers were inflated. But I cannot fathom what information you are reading, what you are seeing that could lead you to believe that it just didn't happen. How is that a thing? I said I'm a history buff, and while I think anyone should be able to criticize historical figures without fear of being canceled, I also see that it is real easy to armchair quarterback wartime. Oh yeah. I mean, look at. I mean, even the phrase armchair quarterback. It's easy to look at something as simple as a football game and armchair quarterback that. Now you take a global conflict. And the same level of, fat guy sitting on the couch who's going to tell Tom Brady, oh, you idiot, you should do this, that. Then it's the same guy who maybe watches half an hour of corporate legacy media a day is going to lecture everybody else on what the military should have done. Like, come on. Yeah, from our own comfort. It's the comfort that you not having to make those kinds of decisions and do those kinds of things. The assumption of what goes into it is so much closer to your actual comfortable life than the reality of what that is. That you're just like, oh yeah, no big deal.
Get that a lot with Israel as well. Any criticism of the Israeli government, people are trained to assume that must mean you're saying you hate Jewish people. But when you're talking about World War II, you're talking about the worst thing that ever happened in the history of the world. the biggest mass murder campaign in history, all around. I mean, like, but in the tens of millions of people died. And the idea that we can never examine that and question, man, was there any way we could have avoided this? Was Danzig really worth all of these people dying? You know, like, it's just, this is insanity.
Well,
okay, so I'm a little confused as to what he means. Maybe you guys could help me out, because it sounds like he's saying that we're not allowed to question the degree of horror that was the Holocaust, which is like before the History Channel went all aliens, every other thing that they showed was a World War II documentary. So unless I'm misunderstanding, is that not what he's saying?
Millions of people died. And the idea that we can never examine that and question, man, was there any way we could have avoided this? Was
like, is that not the overarching theme when we talk about World War II, is how to prevent the Holocaust? Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm confused. But if you guys get it, then please let me know. Shout out to Guam Tech. Welcome to the party. Good to see ya, brother. Good to see ya. So the argument is that if the Allies hadn't gone to war, there never would have been a Holocaust. Okay. I got you. So saying so similar to the Iraq kind of situation where it's like, oh, well, we were sticking our nose over there and that's why they did everything. That's what caused 9/11. Okay, thank you, Opus.
Was Danzig really worth all of these people dying? You know, like, it's just, this is insanity.
Well, there are three things about the war
Okay.
that I think, I've always had kind of conventional views about everything. I'm hardly a radical or like a true free thinker or anything like that. But there are three questions no one's ever answered in my mind. One, so Churchill committed his country and then we followed to war in Europe in defense of Poland. Fine. Okay, that was his view. But then he handed Poland over to Stalin. We're going to war. We're going to wreck our country. We're going to, join this war where tens of millions will die because the territorial integrity, the sovereignty of Poland is that important. And then you just blithely hand it over to Joseph Stalin? Huh? Like, can someone explain that to me? Second, it's clear there was foreknowledge of Pearl Harbor. It's just absolutely clear. It's like not in dispute. The Senate actually had an inquiry into it during the war and kind of concluded that, yeah, we sort of knew. And then it was buried because there was a war on.
Okay, this is news to me. I was not aware that at least intelligence was aware that Pearl Harbor was going to happen. Where were they on that one? Shout out to Bill Bradley. Welcome to the party. Good to see you, brother. So World War II could not have been avoided after the sanction placed on Germany in post-World War I. Inflation was so bad in Germany, at one point, people demanded to be paid every hour. Every nation expected Germany to foot their bill for World War I, which it couldn't do, so it fought. It is why post-World War II, we did the Marshall Plan and put money into the losing nations instead of taxing them. Well said, sir. Welcome to the party. Guamzek said, anyone get to watch the DeSantis versus Newsom debate? Let's just say it confirmed everything I hate about Governor Trudeau life. Yes. So I was going to cover it tonight, but it was just so like exactly what you would expect. And also neither of those guys are going to be president. Then I was just like, let's see if there's anything else. And fortunately we have this, but yeah, I mean all along when, we've been looking at like Republican primaries and we're talking about, oh, DeSantis is doing this wrong and DeSantis is doing that wrong and DeSantis is doing this wrong and Nikki Haley is doing this and, all these things. It's very interesting to zoom out and then you see like, oh, okay, well, in this context, DeSantis is easily our guy. And then you look at Newsom, who is so far removed from being somebody that we would ever want to be in charge of anything. Trudeau light is spot on. Said, I get real tired of this theme of the government knowing if not actually contributing to events that kill their own citizens to gain public approval for extreme action. Why, like, like you said, exactly. It's the theater of it.
What was that? Like, why aren't we talking about that? And the third thing that I've never gotten over is that the war kind of ended American culture and Western culture. Like, we haven't produced meaningful art at scale since 1945. Like,
boom. And that that is really where the title of this stream comes from, is that mostly what they're going to talk about is how important the culture is and how much that's been lacking. And I know you guys know this, but to hear it, on this level is something that, very, very, very cool. And says, people always say that the German economy was completely wrecked before World War II. How did they have the funding to build their giant war machine? That's a good question. Will Bradley says they had natural resources. You don't need currency. You just need the physical materials. Okay. Because that's a good question. That's a good question. And I guess that it doesn't, just because your average lower class American is struggling, doesn't mean that America doesn't have money, right? Like, those aren't the same exact thing. And I'm not saying that our situation in America right now is the same as, after the Treaty of Versailles, but I think Bill has a good answer here. But, also good question.
Everything we produced in architecture.
Yeah, let's hear that one more time.
Or aren't we talking about that? And the third thing that I've never gotten over is that the war kind of ended American culture and Western culture. Like, we haven't produced meaningful art at scale since 1945. Like, everything we produced in architecture, visual arts, music is a little different. I think we have created innovative music in that time, but
I was going to say, again, 1940, it's not like 1945 happened and then snap your fingers, 1946 and nothing ever came. Obviously, most of the culture and entertainment that I would consume would be after 1945. Point being, though, is that everything in that post World War II era is built on the this idyllic view of America from that time. So I believe that is why the U.S. is so pro-war in Ukraine and Israel. Why? I think they're just propping up the petrodollar. Of course, yeah. I mean, well, not only that, but they have, war makes money. There's these companies that are very closely tied to the government. We always call them military-industrial complex. They make a lot of money. And especially if they don't have to send soldiers, then it's just all upside. They don't care what happens on, across the world unless it reaches a certain threshold that changes things. So it's like, hey, let's just cash out. Why not? Why not?
But certainly in the visual arts and architecture, it's just been pure shit since 1945. Really, 1945, like something changed at a very basic level in Western culture. And like, what is that?
And again, I agree. But you're going to tell me that the 1960s and 1970s didn't have any American culture? Like, I completely agree with the point, but you're just 1945 and then the next day. Like, I don't know. Bill said there's this 30-second clip on YouTube where Assange said Afghanistan was just a money transfer to the military-industrial complex. I think Ukraine and Israel are the same. Just a money transfer to the military-industrial complex. That's all this is. I mean, most of that stuff. When you think about the size of these bids and the need or lack of need for what is actually going on, it's all money laundering. It's just taking this money and putting it to where I need it for whatever purpose, so that tomorrow I have friends who owe me favors.
I thought we won. Like, why would it destroy our creative impulse? But it did. And why is there not a serious inquiry into that? I don't understand.
Yeah. There's this old Adams quote, and man, I'm going to butcher it, but he said it's something like, if we go around the world searching for wars, we'll become the dictator of the world, but we will lose our own soul.
That's right.
And there's something about that, right? Like, happening right away. Like, okay, here's the trade. It's like this. Here's the trade.
Yeah, you can have control of the whole world, but you will have no soul to your nation.
Empire for your soul. And that's kind of the deal. And then, of course, that's after World War II springs up the whole, what we know as the national security apparatus today, the creation of the CIA and kind of this whole.
But it's also, it does affect us on the level of our souls. I mean, you should not commit violence except in extraordinary circumstances related to your self-defense. And that's true in your own home. Your wife pisses you off, you shouldn't punch her in the face. That's grotesque. It's a crime.
Well, no, I'm just kidding. But that's something that scales up. That's at an individual level. If somebody aggresses upon you, then you should try to avoid violence at all costs, unless that. And that scales all the way up to a global thing. Bill Bradley says the founders did not want a large standing military because they knew it would be used for empire. They wanted only a force for national defense and thus the state militias. If only we could stick to what the founding fathers wanted, we would have been so much better off. So much better off.
And the idea that you sort of wave away civilian casualties or even military casualties as no big deal or the cost of doing business or something we should celebrate is disgusting. And I don't care. Look, I hated Osama bin Laden. He killed 3,000 of my countrymen, including someone I know. But when he was killed, it's like, I'm glad the threat is gone, but I'm not going to celebrate the shooting of another person, and I don't care.
That's an interesting one. So everybody thinks Tucker should be on YouTube, Rumble, whatever. That's an interesting one. I'll just put it up.
Not because he didn't deserve to die, he did deserve to die, but because celebrating people getting shot is bad for me. And if you have an entire country that's like, oh yeah, we burn down this city and that's great. No. You should never celebrate violence or you will become a monster. It's super simple.
I don't necessarily disagree with that statement in a vacuum. You shouldn't celebrate violence or you'll become a monster. However, we have a new poll. Did you feel good? Did you feel good about bin Laden's death? That's not the same necessarily as celebrating, but did you feel good that had happened? Yes or no? Replay gang, let me know in the comments below.
And that's all through the Old Testament, by the way. Everyone's like, oh, the Old Testament's so violent. Really? David, who committed a lot of violence, spends all of his time talking about, oh man, violence is bad. People who commit violence know how bad it is. Talk to someone who shot someone else in war. They're very against violence for a reason. And when we're celebrating it nationally as a culture, I think we've really lost something important.
But that's not what we're celebrating. We're not celebrating violence. We're celebrating justice. We're celebrating the idea that a threat, an existential threat to us individually as well as our nation, that's a threat to us. And exactly as you just said, he caused it. I mean, assuming we're going with the official narrative, he caused us to be in a position where we do need to use that violence in order to make sure that we are safe at home. Glumtech says, didn't feel good, especially the way they the covered up body made no sense at all. I don't remember what you mean. The way they covered up the body. I'm trying to think because I remember there was I saw I don't know if it was MSNBC or CNN or one of these channels, and they were doing kind of like a walkthrough of of the operation of like what SEAL Team 6 was doing, and it was very, very, very close to the movie Zero Dark 30, which says the same thing. And I don't remember. Oh, you mean Dumb in the Body? Oh, okay. So why do you? So Glumtech number one, is that what you mean? And number two, what would you have preferred? Because I mean, he was shot in the head, so it's not like he was going to have an open casket. Interesting.
100%, man. And there's really something, particularly for conservatives, to learn there. This is one of the reasons why I think you're such an important figure. There were these guys like Ron Paul and Pat Buchanan who kind of called everything right and still lost the power struggle to the neocons. And maybe that's because, those type of people grab power more. But there's something about this relationship between our culture and war. And it's like, look, for conservatives who care so much about American, like the history of American culture, when was the first time you really lost it all? Well, it was during Vietnam, right? That's when you have this huge countercultural movement like come up. And it's very easy for that to gain a foothold when you're off celebrating killing a whole bunch of people. And then like, who are you to have the moral high ground in a situation? And just look at the last 20 years. I mean, why is it that just culturally, not just control of the institutions, but culturally, the left has just won every single battle? It's like, well, you know what? I don't know. 20 years ago, the evangelical Christians in this country went all in on we got to kill 1 million Iraqis for nonsense.
And that goes again exactly in line with what we've been saying, is that I think that we tried to talk about the transgender stuff, and how it's a reaction to a reaction to a reaction. It's that pendulum swinging back and forth. And absolutely, in the even before before 9/11, but especially in the late 90s, the religious right was a very, very strong demographic. And even though I was a Christian at the time, I was still, liberal minded. I was young, and I was like, well, I want to see, my mom won't buy this CD because it's got the parental advisor. So I mean, that's as far as it was for me. But it's all of this is a reaction, and you can see the dots. You can see, oh, this happens, and that happens, and then that happens, and this is a reaction to that, and that's a reaction to this, and this is a reaction to that, and then here we are. Opposite, I thought bin Laden being taken out was good, and it played into the romanticization of the special forces. But I was mainly happy that we can now get out of Afghanistan. And we know that didn't happen. Yeah. Silly Opus thinking that we'd kill bin Laden and get out of Afghanistan. It's almost as if you thought that was the reason that we were there. It's almost as if we were told that we were in Afghanistan because of a guy named bin Laden, and now that he's dead, we could leave. Nope. I just don't understand why the military would be so keen to dispose of a body according to their religion, even though the at-sea burial isn't necessarily a part of Islam, and they never showed the body whatsoever. I know it's getting into conspiracy theories, but it just didn't make any sense. So there's two things there. Because I'm very interested in. I've never heard anybody take issue with this. So I'm not picking on you. I'm curious. So there's the two aspects there. There's one. Are you saying that? Are you saying that despite whether or not it's part of Islam, that if they want that if bin Laden loved ones or whoever wanted his body to be disposed at sea or not what you wanted? Is it an issue that the government is respecting this person's religious beliefs despite who they are? Or is it more of the conspiracy thing where it's like, well, I mean, I never seen his body. So is he really out there? Or is he really dead? I don't know. So which one is it more of? Because it could definitely be, a combination. But which one strikes you more as to why they should have done something other than dump the body? Opus said, so if anything, the death of bin Laden eventually served to further disillusion myself with the U.S. government. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's like exactly as I was being facetious, being like, it's almost as if we went out there just for bin Laden. Now that he's dead, we can come home. And then that doesn't happen. And it's like, wait a minute. What are you guys doing out there? What are you guys doing out there? Hey, shout out to Stephanie Miller in the building. Welcome to the party. Also didn't like that and thought it was really strange. Yeah, I'd never really thought about that too much. Because like for me, the conspiracy aspect definitely has legs to it. I do believe, and I'm very close because of how good the news segment was and how realistic the movie Zero Dark 30 was. I definitely get them confused, and I would not be able to tell you if there was a difference and you told me this part's a different. I wouldn't be able to tell you, oh, no, that's from the news thing, or oh, no, that's from the movie. Point being that I'm pretty sure they had pictures of him. I don't know how widely they were released, but I'm pretty sure. Maybe let's see if we can find it. Bin Laden dead. Can we see a dead bin Laden? Yeah. So I mean, you could argue it's not him, but So I don't know. I'm saying the issue. Yeah, let's get this off the screen. The issue is that it's never been done that way before with any other opposing military leader. Right, but again, so is it the issue that it's never been done like that being respecting their beliefs, or that dumping the body without anybody seeing? That's what I'm trying to nail down. But so they said that it was disposed at sea not to respect his beliefs. Said it was to prevent a gravesite for people to visit. They wanted to avoid turning him into a martyr, or at least according to the U.S. And that does make sense. That does make sense. Now, I also don't see why he couldn't have been cremated and, you know, just dumped in a fucking river or some shit. But I'm still a little confused as to, like, is it the capitulating to what bin Laden wants, or is it the conspiracy of we don't really know what happened? That's what I'm trying to nail down on. Hey, shout out to Zippy the Strange. Welcome to the party with a brand new motherboard. Still can't spell, but we love him anyway. Welcome to the party.
And so they completely lost their ability to tell you, oh, this gender stuff is nonsense. It's like, who are you?
Abortion is wrong. I completely agree. But this is all a legacy of a previous period. And my kids are readers, and I said to one of them once, hey, find me 10 great post-war novels, like really great novels. Like, I don't know, doesn't need to be Anna Karenina, but like 70% of Anna Karenina in the most powerful, dynamic country in the history of the world, our country.
This is the kind of thing where it's like, damn, bruh, you need to read more. I have no idea what Tucker is saying right now.
1945. Find 10 good ones. How about 2 good ones? There aren't any. Find 10 great post-war buildings. Like, something inside us dies. Our creative impulse, which is our life force. I mean, that's what that is. Creativity is life. Something died when we began celebrating violence at scale. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, come on now. Where we at? No. Struggle streaming. Come on, baby. Hold on. Give me a sec here.
All right, guys, that was very interesting to me, and is the role you've kind of played in this. I mean, the role obviously it's a feedback loop too. So it's like there's this big realignment. There's been a big kind of transformation in our country over the last few years. Obviously, the most stark example of it is, say, looking at, say, 2004, the Republican presidential, ticket versus Donald Trump in 2016. Standing up there and telling Jeb Bush, your brother lied us into war in South Carolina at the Republican primary, and then winning, dominating the next day at the poll, at the voting. And, you've been a big part of this, where it was kind of shocking for a while that the 8 p.m. hour at Fox News and the top rated show and all of it.
So we'll come back to that. So Bill is saying, generally, we turn leaders of nations over to those nations to prosecute, or the ICC if they are signatories. But bin Laden was not a leader of a nation, so it was a bit different. And as we said, trying to get things to set up. Yeah, man, get it going. Some of the greatest music and movies came about in this time where we supposedly had no culture. So not sure Tucker is on point here. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying, is that I do agree with the notion, but to say that nothing came out after 1945, like the 1960s, the 1970s, like all that kind of stuff, like there was a lot of culture. I would say from the 90s, it started dwindling. But and I think maybe the beginning of the end was after World War II. But there was a lot. I would say the majority of what we would say is American culture came after in the heels of World War II. So I do think things changed, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I agree with the premise, just not the timeline. So I'm with you, Bill. So he said, postmodern art is also a bit soulless, or rather it gets more and more soulless. Yeah, it's just anything can be anything, so everything is art.
What?
If everything is art, then nothing is art. All right, so let's see. I missed this out here. Let's see.
And then winning, dominating the next day at the poll. At look,
voting. we got another very unlucky person from Facebook. Virgil said, hey, from Manchester, England. I'm under therapy in death row at a prison in Huntsville, Texas. How in the fuck are you in Manchester, England, in Huntsville, Texas?
What?
But let's continue. My therapist said, don't worry about getting a Christmas present. All right, then I won't. Facebook is a crazy place. What is happening on Facebook? Anyway, Zibby says, Brutalism and box-based architecture design is very meh, but it was also new. New trends are a thing to follow. I feel Tucker is arguing high art, as common art seems mostly fine. Maybe. Womack says the bill haven't really exactly heard that side of it. Honestly, I'm just going off the gut reaction rather than a research nuanced decision. Tells me I need to look more into it. Fair enough. Oga said America's adventures in Afghanistan was obviously led by people who didn't study history. For time immemorial, Afghanistan is where great nations have gone to lose epic wars. Yep. Bill says to Quamtech, I mean, it was definitely not standard operating procedure, and our government is shady, so skepticism is almost always warranted. Yep, I agree. Hey, shout out to David Banner. Welcome to the party. So as good as his insights on American culture can be, let's not forget Tucker Swanson, McNear Carlson, is an old money political culture pundit warrior, culture war pundit warrior. I feel he's only sincere of his provocation of political speak. Can you say a little bit more what you mean by that? I feel he's only sincere in his provocation of political speech, meaning that he just tries to get things. Yeah, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So to say a little bit more on what that is. Hopefully, yeah. I don't know. He's back. I am from Manchester, England, and I murdered the family in Texas. What? Like Stephanie said, hopefully you have a therapist. So he says, to be fair, everything can be art. The trouble is more what humans call refined art. Refined art is whatever the kings and nobles say they are. Yeah, it's just the bullshit that, you put a splotch of paint on a canvas and you come up with some backstory, and now you can sell it for $10 million. Nobody actually finds $10 million worth of value. They're just doing, they're just buying the art and then or donating this or that to get around paying taxes. That's all the art, like wine, like big ticket items. It's all money laundering. It's all money laundering. Zippy said, kings and nobles were the consumers of art. Art has always been commercialized, but we can't respect complex and well-refined art anymore. Yep. Okay. So David said, I feel he's only sincere in his provocation of political speak. Saying by that, I mean, Tucker doesn't survive on solving issues. He rakes in his audience on stoking the flames of Joe Biden is bad because he's a lib and bad. Well, what do you guys think? One, if you agree with David. Two, if you disagree. That Tucker does not survive on solving issues. He rakes in his audience on stoking the flames of Joe Biden is bad because he's a lib and bad. The thing that, so, there are two different things here. The idea of not surviving on solving issues and is one thing, but also just reducing things to Joe Biden is bad because he's a lib. That's a different thing. So I think you're right in the sense that, we got a couple disagreeers with you so far. I think that you're right in the sense that he doesn't survive on solving issues. He's not looking to, fix it up so that he's like, well, I've fixed everything. I don't need to talk about anything. But that's also not his role. His role is to do exactly the thing, to highlight the issues so that the people whose jobs it is to fix it, namely us, to vote the people, the right people in, that's our job. And the politician's job. It's not Tucker's job to solve issues. It's Tucker's job to report the issues. So only Hunter Biden's art is worth millions. Welcome to the party, Mark W. Yeah, exactly. What, you think Hunter Biden really cares about art?
Come on, man.
Bill Bradley said Da Vinci made art largely to fund his other projects. It was his way of extracting money out of the wealthy. Yep, you got it. Yeah, Mike also disagrees. He said buying costly art and wine and stuff is more clout chasing and tax dodging. We need a flat consumer tax. And, it's, again, I'll agree with the first part. I don't want to stake a claim in saying a flat tax. But definitely it's all about clout chasing and tax dodging. So I can't say yes or no to that. What is that? The running poll. Did you feel good about bin Laden's death? I mean, just think about how you felt. And is that a good feeling or is that a bad feeling? David said he's only sincere in pushing the issue when it comes to inflammatory political speak. Okay, I mean that's certainly a fair position. I don't know that I agree, and Zippy, Mike, and Opus don't as well. But hey, that's your freedom, America, Jack. Oh, Virgil's back with more. There's virtually no chance of getting a leg over in Manchester, England. More chance of getting hit by lightning while being attacked by a great white shark. The birds seem to have their knickers glued on. I thought you said that you murdered a family in Texas. So what is the English? What are you talking about, bro? Get your story straight. Get your story straight. Thanks for agreeing. Yep, totally agree. Facebook, right? Opus said, I think Tucker has reached a position where he could talk about crickets in Africa and people would still listen in. I mean, hey, depends on what he's saying, right? I mean, it might have something to say. So he said, Tucker is Tucker and Rogan is Rogan. They BS what they could BS. I don't really know that you said much there. So he said he brings it to light so we know what's going on. But I think he believes what he's saying and in what he's doing. Yeah, I agree. And there you go. Force yourself to make the choice. But I totally agree that it's not Tucker's job to go out and fix these issues. It's Tucker's job to know about these issues so that he can tell us so that we can make the appropriate give the appropriate response. It said, I think Tucker is close, but the Fox News audience, TV watcher generation is about to all die, and young conservatives would rather watch Charlie Kirk or Tate. I don't know if I agree with that. I think younger people, let's see, is he going to come over? You saw him trying to come over, right? I'm going to turn around and he's not going to come over. Come on. There you go. Finally. I think if you were to say younger people in general, then yes, maybe an Andrew Tate. But the people who are into politics, the Zoomers who are into politics, certainly maybe Charlie Kirk, but certainly there is a great respect for Tucker. So I don't know, man. It seems like there's a little bias showing, which is fair. You can have your own opinions, but I'm just saying. Zippy said a flat tax is simple. You can't money launder for the rich if you had a flat tax, unless you make it insanely complex. Well, that's where the issue comes in, is that I don't know enough. Hey, God, right? I don't know enough about the details of what a flat tax would entail and where it could go awry and what would need to be implemented to make sure that it doesn't become insanely complex. So that's all. I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm not smart enough on this to give an answer. Yeah, I lied. Of course, that is Morty in a nutshell. The one time I say he's not going to come over, he would come over. Every other time I welcome him in, and he runs over. Oh, Virgil is still going. All right. Let's see. So when I stayed in New York City, we got Manchester, England. We've got Huntsville, Texas, and we've got New York City. All right. There's 3 things involved here. So when he stayed in New York City, he had the misfortune of staying at the Jane Hotel in Greenwich Village. Apart from the bed bugs, it was a nice room. Good to hear. But the heat was unbearable. I had to open a window. A window? I wasn't to know there was a giant flying cicada sleeping under my bed. Anywho, as I slipped into the arms of Morpheus, this beast gripped me and flew out of the bedroom window with me. Unfortunately, the giant critter couldn't support my 40-stone weight, and I fell onto the pavement. That's as much as StreamYard gives me. So I'm very fully entertained by this. So if you want to continue, let's go. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. This the funnest part of the night. No, all right, let's get back into this. What are we talking about?
Your brother lied us into war in South Carolina at the Republican primary and then winning, dominating the next day at the poll, at the voting. And,
yeah, no, I take your point. You're fair enough.
And, you've been a big part of this where it was kind of shocking for a while that the 8 p.m. hour at Fox News and the top rated show in all of cable news was the most anti-war voice in the corporate media. And this was, for someone like me, like I'm 40, and so I was like a young adult during and I lived in New York City during 9/11 and the war on terror years. I think for sometimes like younger guys, they don't kind of appreciate how crazy of a transformation that was. And so it's kind of interesting that I think Donald Trump and you, I would say, are probably the two biggest figures that kind of gave the right half of America permission to re-examine some of this stuff. Like it's not
fair.
making you Michael Moore anymore,
Right.
to do it. You could just be kind of like Tucker Carlson or Donald Trump, you know?
Well,
yeah, talking about opening the doors of what is normal conversation, what is regular political, what is in the realm of what we would accept as non-conspiratorial political discussion.
I think the slur was, and it was rooted in truth probably, is if you were against American military, the projection of American military force, you were against America. You didn't have self-confidence. You were personally probably a pussy, but you also didn't believe in your country or its ideals or its foreign projects. And I mean, I certainly trust me, I employed that slur on TV. I mean, I was in TV since I was in my mid-20s. So I had a lot of years of repeating these slogans, which were completely false, and I just wasn't self-aware enough to know what I was doing. But
which is big that he's able to say that now. I mean, it doesn't necessarily erase it, or it certainly doesn't erase it. You know, the party lines that he was, the regurgitating all the time that he was on TV. That doesn't erase any of that. But people can change. People can learn, and it does seem like that usually doesn't happen. But Tucker seems to be the case where he's like, oh, okay, I was part of the machine. I was part of the machine, and I believe what I said, but I believed what I said for reasons that I'm just in a different position. I'm viewing things from a different perspective. I don't have the same types of blinders on, and it's just something that I believe. I believe him when he talks about I'm self-aware now. I wasn't self-aware then. I think that's that's completely normal and reasonable. But also the concept of what is acceptable in political discussion is called the Overton window. And one might argue Tucker and Trump helped move the Overton window back to the right a bit. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it got shoved way far to the left with Obama. Way far to the left with Obama. And then, it's only just in the last year or so that it's starting to return to normal. And again, the Overton window shifting back and forth is the same thing as the pendulum switching back and forth. So it's just other ways to talk about it. Oh, wait. We've got an update from Virgil. So where did we leave off with Virgil? So he fell on the pavement. Thank the Lord that I was only on the second floor. Well, that's not too bad then, is it? I sustained 2 broken legs and a fractured hip from the second floor. Come on, bro. FDNY were amazing, but I nearly fell off the stretcher because they were laughing so much and they never kept the stretcher still. The point of a stretcher is to move you, so if it was staying still, then they wouldn't be using it properly. I'm not convinced they believe me. Just goes to show you never know what's around the corner. I dread to think what creatures what that in creatures' tensions were. My psychiatrist didn't believe me and sanctioned me under the Mental Health Act. Y'all know what a cicada is, right? I mean, it's not like the cutest thing in the world, but like it's just a bug. They're like that big. They're big. But this man apparently jumped out a 2-story. It definitely is an annoying bug. But apparently, this man jumped out a 2-story window for a cicada. Anyway, where were we?
Mid-20s. So I had a lot of years of repeating these slogans, which were completely false, and I just wasn't self-aware enough to know what I was
bullshit.
doing. The point is, 20 years ago this week, weirdly, I went to Iraq in the winter of 2003, and I won't be boring, but I'll just say in one sentence, that completely changed my view of everything, because it turned out what I had been claiming, espousing, hoping for was all totally false. And so that set off a chain reaction in my head. And by the time I got back to Washington, where I lived, my views had completely changed. I mean, it was inchoate at that point. I wasn't exactly sure what I believed, but I know what I didn't believe, which was everything I had been saying. And
that the red pilling of somebody who is in the position of, I'm supposed to be the one that's red pilling y'all. And it's like, wait, I'm full of shit. Oh no, I'm full of shit. And so then he comes back, and then we see all the stuff that got him fired. That he was like, "Fuck it, I don't care. I'm not gonna bullshit here." I was sucked in, as so many of us were. I voted for Hillary in 2016. If you didn't remember, so many of us got sucked in, and just because you're on TV talking about this stuff doesn't mean that you're exempt. And so again, that's why I feel comfortable with him coming to us and saying, "Hey, I really have changed. I don't know how much he has changed. We definitely need to see, some type of test, some type of issue where it's like, okay, where are you going to fall? Are you going to take the easy? Are you going to take the easy, establishment line, or are you going to take the correct moral, alternative facts, whatever you want to call it?" It was a giant cicada. All right, man. God damn.
I said this out loud and immediately lost, an awful lot of friends who took it much more seriously than I thought they would.
Yeah, Virgil, can you at least throw a like on the video? That would help. Thank you.
And we're not interested in intellectual inquiry or thinking really at all. They were very lockstep Stalinists, and I didn't know that. I don't know how I'd been living among these people. Some of them were very bright, but I just didn't get it. And some of them truly hated me, and to this day hate me, just because I reassessed on the basis of evidence. Now, maybe I'm wrong.
How dare you?
Open that possibility. But
how dare you? You had an opinion and you changed it?
How dare you?
Not allowed in politics. Okay?
Why would you be anyway? Whatever. So that for me, for like 20 years, I didn't feel like anyone agreed with me. But Trump made it possible to make the case, hey, this isn't good for us. I'm against foreign adventurism. I'm against the neocon program because I love America. I live here. My kids live here. I don't want to wreck it. He made that case. No one had ever done that before. And I mean, that was the moment. You're right. It was that South Carolina debate, and all the dumb people on TV, political reporters, the dumbest of all reporters, because it's the easiest reporting. You just recite poll numbers and cliches. They were all in. I was on the set when that happened. They're like, oh, well, he just lost South Carolina. And the checks notes, South Carolina is the highest percentage of military veterans of any state, and they're going to hate this. And it turns out to be, of course, the mirror image.
Yeah, that was the moment that the moment that Trump went after Jeb Bush in South Carolina changed the course of American history. We are now in a new era of politics than we were the moment before that. Do you guys remember that? I mean, let's go. Because I mean, it was just, we didn't see that. Trump attacks Jeb Bush, South Carolina.
This is a tough business to run for president.
I know. You're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is real tough. You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way to the presidency.
Let's see. I'm at 42 and you're at 3. So
Doesn't matter.
Far I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
So far I'm doing better. You started off over here, Jeb. You're moving over further and further. Pretty soon you're going to be off the end.
This doesn't do a thing to solve the problem.
Oh, wait. Guys, he's got video footage, but it was blocked by the Supreme Court. So unfortunately, we'll never know. We will never know. I'm sorry to hear that, brother. Hey, shout out to the Uncle Junior Network. Welcome to the party, coming in hot with that $20 super chat. Oh, let me pull it out of the way so we can get full view of our treat for Morty. Thank you, sir. Another awesome YouTube channel that you guys should definitely go check out. Just drop the link in the chat. Thank you so much. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you so much, brother. Very, very, very much appreciated.
Hugh, go ahead.
Well, let's go back.
Further and further, pretty soon you're going to be off the end.
This
lose your
doesn't do
temper
a thing to
Yeah,
solve the
one
problem.
at a
It
time.
doesn't do a thing to solve the problem.
That was a changing in paradigms. That was the difference between the before time and the after time.
Military veterans who'd had their lives destroyed or at least put on hold by these totally pointless wars were the most on Trump's side. State. And that's when they decided we better spy on this guy and wreck his life. And that's never ended.
I remember because I was a big Ron Paul supporter. So I remember in 2008 and
Shout out again to the Uncle Junior Network. Thank you so much.
in 2012, and anybody can go look this up. Ron Paul in the Republican primaries got more money from active duty military members than every other candidate combined. And I remember at the time being like, how is this not the biggest news story in America? How is everybody? And so they just ignore this. But this is almost where you see like the atrophy in the corporate media is that so they ignore this story because they get some cognitive dissonance out of it. So then they're totally unprepared when it's Donald Trump up there. And I remember there's great compilations of this stuff. If you don't know what Tucker's talking about, if you're listening, where everybody was like, well, I'm Mr. Expert, and that's it. He's done. Because if there's one thing you can't do is go to South Carolina and the Republican primary. And they're just
And this is the kind of stuff that I was watching at the time, under thinking that I was getting, the real gritty news because I was watching not just MSNBC, but CNN and Fox News. And I'm watching thinking that I'm getting the full picture. And so many people do that. So many people do that and think they're getting the full picture when really it's like, the light spectrum. You can see all the colors in the rainbow, right? But the rainbow is only a very small portion of the entire spectrum of light. And so when it comes to news and politics and culture, then getting your news from 3 networks that are all in cahoots, at some point, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Bill Bradley said, people don't change. The left has told me that time and time again. This is his humans can change grift. I was a Christian never Trumper. Do you think I've changed or no? Am I on my humans can change grift? I'm not saying that he has changed. But are you saying that I haven't changed? Am I still the ignorant liberal Christian? I don't know. Mike says if Tucker was still towing the line, he would still be at Fox. I think he has changed. Oh yeah, video. Mike said, I'm not a Trump fanboy, but I'm definitely thankful for him. I believe he's changed politics for the better. Absolutely. The fact that I was in that position to be so adamantly against him and then able to see like, oh, wow, despite the fact that I started out hating him, he won me over. Hey, shout out to MJ. Welcome to the party. Likes that word, cahoots. In cahoots. Welcome. Good to see ya. Virgil says, all right, come on, man. I'm giving you all this attention for your story. Come on, just hit the like button. That's all I'm asking for. Open said Tucker is a devout Episcopalian, and it seems like he is having a come to Jesus moment. So I think that guides a lot of his current actions. Whether it's a good or bad thing, I don't know. Just think it's relevant to the discussion. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I agree. I think that his, when you're in, even working at Fox News and you're in culture or conservative politics, like it's still very corporate business. And I think it's a lot easier to have a spiritual life of any kind, whether it's religion or elsewhere, something else. When you're not in that heavy grind at a corporation, where especially you're the face of the corporation. I definitely agree. And nothing stopped you so far. Do whatever you want. Bill Bradley said, I figured the ellipses leaving the statement open. You got it. We got it. I'm playing along with you. I got it. I know what we're talking about. I gotta address it because somebody else watching might not know that I know that you know, and then I look like an idiot for being like, oh yeah, no.
there's one thing you can't do is go to South Carolina and the Republican primary. And they're just all wrong. It's a big part, I think.
But not just wrong. I mean, as someone who's been wrong a lot, I allow for people to be wrong, but wrong with the most kind of like hand-waving dismissiveness toward anyone. Oh, well, if there's exactly as you said, if there's one thing you can't, everybody knows, you know what I mean? You can't swim for 30 minutes after you eat. Oh, shut up. You don't know anything. You're retarded. How did you get on TV?
Shout out to Tucker. He is so ready. He is so ready to shed that corporate thing and be one of the guys, one of us, one of the YouTubers, which is again why I use YouTuber vaguely, but one of the not part of the establishment, which is always why it's been, my first question is about whether he should have a YouTube channel or Kick or Rumble or whatever. It's odd to me. It's odd to me. I wonder what kind of deal he has with Elon to only be on X. It's got to be something wild because you're just missing out on so much. You're just missing out on so much. I mean, even if you're getting the viewership, the experience of what is content consumption. There's no comments on Twitter. How big of a part of this show is what you guys are saying? A huge part. And when you have somebody like Tucker, that people want to, that previously he was in this celebrity class, where that idea of the celebrity class is kind of faded a little bit. That's the kind of person that you want to be accessible to people and talking directly to people, because those are the types of people who are who are seen as different from the rest of us. Bill said the professional managerial class lives a super insulated life. They tend to see themselves as the enlightened ones that have to shepherd us supposedly ignorant masses. It makes them condescending. Yeah, I mean, when you and how do you even blame somebody if you're the top news anchor in America? How do you not think that you're the one who's enlightened, that you have to shepherd the rest of them? Like it makes sense. My dog really likes me, but my cat doesn't seem to care. That's not, I mean, what's that? That's your question? What's that about? Maybe you're a dick and a murderer.
Well, it is. I know you've made these analogies before, and you talked about this in your book, Ship of Fools, which is really great. But where it's kind of like, it's almost like, so right now, as I do, right? Okay, so right now I'm like, I have a really great marriage and me and my wife really love each other. Everything's really good. And then tomorrow I find out not only that she's had cheated on me, but she's had a years-long affair or something like that.
But she's actually a dude.
Yeah, something huge. You know what I mean? Something like, put yourself in Barack Obama's shoes.
Oh my God, we got a new co-sponsor, #1 American Rob in the building, coming in hot. Another $20 super chat. Let's get Morty his treat here. Said, thank you, yummy. Thank you. And of course, that makes you the new co-sponsor of the stream. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, Stephanie Miller, thank you so much. We got another tenner here coming in hot. I love it. And so does Morty. Thank you so much. So #1 American Rob said, hey brother, sorry I missed your birthday live the other night. Not a problem. Thank you so much for being here anytime that you are. And of course, whenever you're parting with your hard-earned money, very, very, very much appreciated. You never need to apologize. Thank you, brother. And Stephanie Miller with the $10 said, please ask Virgil if his fall from the window in New York came before or after he killed a family in Texas. I'm really curious. So Virgil, if you're still here, can you give us a timeline? When were you in New York City versus when were you in Texas versus when were you in Manchester? Where are you incarcerated? And what exactly is it that you would like? We are all very, very curious. Thank you so much, guys. As you know, I like to jump right back in with the donation. Thank you.
This must be like, I'm sorry. Kidding. No, there's no proof on that one, but there's some questionable photos. Anyway, but like, and okay, yeah, like you made this point. Like, yeah, okay, you'd be angry at first, you'd blame her, but at some point you think you'd go like, hey, this was the most important thing in my identity to know this. And I was completely wrong.
Yes.
Let's examine this. And that just has never come.
Well, it's the key to growth and happiness. I mean, not only is it the key to rational politics, it's the key to growth and happiness,
right?
To contentment and calmness, to a happy life. I mean, the one thing, there's so many things I've never learned: not eat Oreos. You know what I mean? Like, get enough sleep. I mean, there's all kinds of lessons I will never learn. But
wait, okay. So Stephanie Miller said, ask Virgil if the fall from the window in New York came before or after he killed the family in Texas. Really curious. So Virgil says, I'm currently on death row in Huntsville, Texas. The big guy in the next cell brought a mouse back to life. They still fried him.
How dare you?
Why would they fry him if they brought a mouse back to life? But Stephanie's question is specifically about the timeline. So can we get a timeline as to the fall from the window? When is the fall from the window in relation to murdering a family in Texas? That's what we're all wondering about. That's what we're all wondering about. Zabita Strange says the executive class has always been out of touch. It took, 50, 60 years post-industrialism for globalism to centralize wealth so much they no longer need the presence. Yep. Bill Bradley's got to run. Thank you so much for being here. You have a good one. Hey, we got Bonzig in the building. Welcome to the party, brother. Good to see you. Mike W. said Tucker for vice president. He just did an interview where he didn't deny he would do it. Hell yeah, I would be down for that. I would still prefer having Vivek because I want to see him in the Oval Office in 2028. But that would definitely be a good one. Yeah, man, it's been a minute. All is well. Hope all is well with you as well. Always good to see you, brother. The Green Mile. What about the Green Mile? Context. But welcome to the party. Oh, gotcha. Oh, man. Anyway, moving on.
Happy life. I mean, the one thing, there's so many things I've never learned: not eat Oreos. You know what I mean? Like, get enough sleep. I mean, there's all kinds of lessons I will never learn. But the one lesson I did learn a number of years ago.
I have seen it, but I saw it like once when I was a kid. So I don't really remember it, as you can see.
Is blame yourself first. I blame myself first. I really try. I don't want to, but I make myself. Like, I fucked up. How did I do that? It's my fault. And I just almost say it out loud, or I say it to my wife just to force myself to do it, to like look inside a little bit. And I'm not, a self-flagellator by any means. I'm the opposite of a self-flagellator. I'm expulsive, not retentive in Freudian terms. But if you force yourself to go through the exercise of an after-action report in your own head, how did I get this wrong? I get this wrong. They lied to me. Sure. Why did I believe that?
That's the right question. As he says, what did you do wrong first? And so even if they lied to you, why did you fall for it? That is precisely the line of thinking that I had to do when I, started coming to the realization that maybe Hillary wouldn't have been better. Just maybe Hillary wouldn't have been better. And then you slowly, why did I think that she would? Because these people were, I believed that they were credible. Why did I believe that they were credible? Because so many other people believe that they're credible. Oh, why did so many other people believe that they're so credible? Because the messages that they put out are, number one, so close to each other, but just different enough that you think you're getting a difference, and that everything else is just blocked out. And so, even though that's still they're doing this, they're doing that, now I understand, okay, there's something that I have to do to make sure that I can see when they're lying.
If you make yourself do that, you become way happier, more balanced, and much wiser.
Yeah, it's something I try to work on a lot too. And what ends up happening, and this part of it is kind of rough, is then it becomes almost involuntary. Like once you start making yourself do it, then you can't stop doing it.
Yes.
And in the short run, that can be a little bit annoying, because I'll be that way. Like even if me and my wife are just like arguing and I find myself just like digging into my position, I just get that little voice now in my head that's like, okay, you were wrong about this, right?
Exactly.
Oh, I thought he said he was going to be right. And he's like, oh shit. Shout out to Zippy the Strange. signing up to become a, oh wait, it's right here. To become a disciple of the Indian Jesus, members only. And of course, that means you get access to the private Discord channels. If you are not already a member, definitely check out the Discord. Send me a DM and you will get all the access just by signing up. So thank you, sir.
And they're like, damn it, little voice.
Well, you might want to wait till tomorrow to admit that. I mean,
yes.
Strategies involved. At some point, if you were wrong, you are morally bound and bound by your own self-respect, your own dignity to admit it. You can't pretend you weren't wrong when you were. And if you do, you are totally diminished as a person and you become weaker, paradoxically. You're doing that so you can appear strong. But if you keep doing it, you become like any of these neocon husks.
Yep. You have to be able to know when you are wrong and to be able to admit when you are wrong. Otherwise, when you claim that you are right, nobody has any reason to believe you. If you can't call out when you're wrong, then what is the difference between you claiming something and you're wrong and you claiming something and you're right? Nobody has any reason to differentiate what it is that you're actually doing. Hey, shout out to Zippy the Strange. Oh my God. Gifting yet another membership. Who got it? Ray Pest. Welcome to the discipleship. Hold on, but I got to show everybody. There you go. Sorry about that. There you go. Ray Pest, make sure, again, hit me up on Discord. Make sure you get everything that you are owed. Thank you, sir. Very, very, very much appreciated.
You see on TV who are clearly just barely hanging on to the lies they themselves no longer believe. Like it's just bad for you, right?
Yeah, it's like you make this exchange for a temporary avoidance of feeling bad at the cost of wisdom.
Yes.
You can never develop wisdom unless you have that. And so that quality, and I'll tell you, it's weird because, you learn about people, even if you don't know them super well when you watch their shows and you learn, but I think that's part of what you have been able to bring to the table over the last several years, really through the whole Tucker Carlson Tonight run. And now your show on Twitter, or X, excuse me. It's going to take me years to get that right.
We call it X, Dave.
So yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
There are nudes in the Discord.
I messed up. Still not my favorite.
Just a single letter.
I like a lot of what Elon Musk has done. Changing it to X was the second worst besides his trip to Israel.
Are we pronouncing that correctly, or is it zh? Is it more Chinese? I mean, like, how do you pronounce it?
I was counting on Twitter to be the one non-Chinese social media company. So
yeah, right. I think with Elon, we can trust that we are not going down the G pipeline. MJ said you gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them. You gotta know, and I'm missing out, but I got it. Good one. Hey, shout out to the Robs over on Twitch. Welcome to the party. It's an bastard from England. So let's go for a discussion. That is what we are here for. Welcome to the party. CB says, X sucks. I want Twitter back. I said, shit, me too. It's just inconvenient to talk about. And then, it worked where there's Twitter, and then you tweet, and then you can retweet. Now it's X. Do you X? Do you post on X? It's just, come on.
Hope it's not. I hope that's not it. But there was one of the things you do on your show that I really like. I try to do this too, because I do a show about the news, and one of the things I try to do as best as possible, which is challenging in today's environment, is
me too,
to zoom out as much as you can, because it's like every day there's a new crazy thing. But then one day there's a crazy thing and you go like, no, wait, this is not just a crazy thing. This is one of the biggest stories in American history. Like, this isn't just some crazy thing. This is like the 3-letter agencies tried to frame the sitting president for treason. That's a really big deal.
This is something that, this makes me think of UFC, where every time they try to market every pay-per-view card as the biggest fight in UFC history. And a lot of times they are right. They are building, and each fight is bigger than the last biggest fight. But it seems like now politics is going through a similar type of theatrical arc where each next thing has to be bigger than the last. And so it's like, this is the biggest story in American history. And then tomorrow, another story that's the biggest story in American history. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's up there with like top 5 stories in American history, right?
Interesting.
But I gotta say, I think one of them has got to be you and this show you're doing on X. And look, I love it. I never miss an episode of it. But regardless of that, the fact is that the biggest show host in cable news.
Bruh. How do you not know who Tucker Carlson is? But that's Tucker Carlson. And on the other side, Dave Smith. Crazy.
Gets fired and then has to move online. And it's
still no like, Virgil? Come on, man.
Just
hit the like button.
By orders of magnitude. Like, that's a really big deal. That just represents...
It's a better medium. I mean, we used to say in TV, like I was on a couple different...
He's probably nervous as shit with Tucker there. I mean, I'm not trying to cover for him, but I would be nervous as shit.
Several different channels, cable channels, broadcast channels. And like my ratings would vary dramatically. And the show, maybe better or worse, depending, but like over 25 years. But it's the venue matters a lot. And it just turns out that people use social media and far fewer subscribe to cable news and consume their information sitting in the living room. Like that, it was just so obvious. And I'm such a late adapter because I'm not into tech at all. We don't have a TV in my house,
Okay, boomer. You're on TV and you don't own a TV? You've never wanted to just be like, hey, what do I look like on TV?
We're not tech people at all. We're book readers. So I only sensed it, but as soon as you make it easy for people to consume free effectively,
you go, brother. No worries. No worries.
But basically, the meat of it is, a lot of it is free and always will be. Your viewership goes up. And also, I think, it's pretty obvious. It's certainly obvious to you and your entire audience, but like media are controlled. That's the whole point. And as soon as...
Wait a minute. Tucker Carlson is saying that the media is controlled?
Oh,
that can't possibly be.
People sense you're not controlled or less controlled or you're out of control. They want to watch, right? I mean, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it does, like, what it represents is, like a real losing of that control. And for the first time, at least in my lifetime, that there isn't kind of this monopoly on the flow of information. And of course, Elon Musk buying Twitter is a big part of that. And he's going to be is already dealing with tremendous forces trying to, interfere with that. But at least for now, it does seem like, they're
good one, Obi. He's a libertarian. What do you expect? That's funny. I love how he cracked himself. Yeah, and that laugh is so infectious, right? That laugh.
The two guys I usually point to are you and Joe Rogan, but between you two guys and then a whole bunch of other guys like on smaller levels, but like a lot of them, it's like, there's a whole new generation of people who are consuming their information that is not controlled. That doesn't mean it's correct all of the time. I'm sure we all make our mistakes, but it's not controlled by the CIA. Like there is a difference
exactly
there.
Right.
And nobody's expecting anybody to be perfect. That's not even the goal here. The goal is not to be ideally, yes, if we could be perfect when we're talking about the things that we're talking about, that would be great. But and we do try, whether it's somebody as big as Tucker Carlson or somebody as, B-list as Dave Smith, who's still famous, but not, nearly as recognizable as Tucker, or some little schmuck who nobody knows about, sitting in his living room. The goal isn't to try to be perfect. And if you fall short of that you failed. Yes, you want, again, just like the ideological ideals that we talk about, where it's up here. This is a perfect utopia. So we want to just try to get as close to that as possible. Same thing with reporting the news or discussing a conversation, breaking down a conversation. All those things. It's just I want to do the best that I can do, and with y'all's help, then I can do that even better. And if I can do it well and you can help me do it even better, then it goes around and around and around, and we all, we all continue to be better. Yeah, right. You can't help but laugh with him. The gobbler laugh. Open said Tucker is relatable. It is his superpower. True. Bone Six said his giggle is elite. David says, Ben, a libertarian doesn't inhibit you from making a perfect interview. I think Opus was just taking a little shot at libertarians, but they're eating up. Stephanie said it's unrealistic to expect perfect or always right. I think genuine is a good goal. I agree. Genuine and authentic. Just what is it that you really think? What is it that you really believe? And go from there. Stop trying to win an argument and just have the conversation, but stop trying to push an agenda and just look at the issues as they stand and form your opinion. It's very simple, but it gets very complicated because of the games and the politics around all of it. I'm asking just you do you, homie. You. Virgil said, I'm not perfect, but I would tuck one up Tucker. Fair enough. Tucker's relatable, but it's manufactured. I'm going to disagree there. I disagree. I think the fact that he's, because remember, he wasn't always, the head of Fox News. That wasn't always him. But yet he's always been this guy. So I don't think it's manufactured at all. Yeah, I don't think so. Oh, you deleted that? All right, I'll save you, Mike, because I can see it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm with you, Opus. I don't think it's manufactured at all. Now, does that mean that there's nothing that he has ever said specifically when he was on Fox News that was maybe not 100% what he believed? I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying overall, I think his personality is genuine.
And actually, I know you know this because we've talked about it offline, but if you were to say out loud in specific terms the degree of control that specific agency, and there are many other agencies, but that one specifically, CIA, had over our public conversation and over our politics, you'd sound like a complete freaking wacko. Like people wouldn't even believe you, and yet it would be absolutely true. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm saying is we understate the power, and I'm speaking this from knowledge after 35 years in Washington, knowing a lot of people who work there and knowing a lot about it. We understate the power of this intel agency with an unknown budget, unknown staff, unknown reach, unknown mission. Like, it's completely out of control, like much more than people understand. It's completely out of control.
It definitely is out of control. All right, so David Banners here is clarifying now. So he originally said Tucker's relatable but manufactured. So I'm not saying his persona is a gimmick. I'm saying him touching base with the common man isn't anything close to who he is or the life he lives. I believe wholeheartedly that Tucker speaks what he believes. Okay, that's fair. So then I personally that gives him, that pushes him higher in my regard. The ability to understand the common man when you are very far away from being the common man, and understanding that that transformation from being the guy at Fox and realizing, oh, okay, the guy at Fox is not the common man. That aspect, I think, so I think we're all kind of saying the same thing, but okay, thanks for clarifying. Yeah, that makes a little more sense. Stephanie Miller said on Fox News he had bosses. Fox screwed up because now he is his own boss. They let the dog off the leash, and they are not happy about it. Elvis said he likes to wander into the woods and fish. Yes, he is wealthy, but that doesn't mean he doesn't live a life that is relatable. Well said. I think given the circumstances, I'm going to give that comment of the night so far. Dilly to that. I think just based on the notion that we're all kind of saying the same thing, but we're all circling the drain, kind of saying different things. And I think Opus here really tied a bone on it. So thank you for that. Drinks to you. Comment of the night. Bonzig said mainstream legacy news gets their content or news from tweets, for fuck's sake. Everything is a tweet. Well, no, now it's an X. But you're right. Listen, I think Tucker is very grounded for his stature. There you go. There you go. Yeah, exactly. Well said. Well said. David Banner said, nuance isn't that he is with the common man. He understands him. The people in Kentucky who are told just learn to code. Yep. Tucker knows what the Oval Office in the White House is about. Ha 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 ha. Seven Miller said, I mean, his career takes him farther from being the common man, but he has not lost touch with the common man. Yep. Well said. I think, yeah, I think we're all we've all found that middle ground. But Jake says Fox and CNN never bring up a Facebook or Insta post. Nope, it's always a tweet. It's always a tweet. Because I mean, there's some weird stuff going on Facebook,
and it's also completely corrupt. I was telling my wife at dinner actually 2 nights ago, with a bunch of relatives sitting there. We were thinking of 4 separate real estate transactions that we were personally party to, or on the same street or next door to or whatever, of CIA officers, current CIA officers who are paying millions of dollars for very expensive real estate. And my wife's like, oh, what about that one? We sold our house once to a CIA officer for all this money. It's like, and the question was like, where do they get all this money? You're a federal employee.
Where do they get all this money? I'm hoping he's asking that now facetiously, even if he was being genuine at the time.
Where'd you get $4 million or $12 million?
From your pocket and your pocket, from David Banner's pocket and Virgil's pocket and Stephanie Miller's pocket and Lutch's pocket. That is where they got $4 million.
Know what I mean? Like, leaving aside the assassinations and the subversion of democracy, just the pure financial corruption of the CIA is like a mind-blowing story that the average person knows nothing about. True.
Yeah. And to juxtapose that with, I just saw Chris Cuomo was on PBD, and one of the clips that they took was that the CIA is not in bed with the left. It's like, come on, bro. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, are they openly a left-wing propaganda operation? Maybe not, but they may as well be. You don't think that they have a little bit of a leaning to the left? Come on, man.
Yeah, and look, and this is one of the things that Trump, and in many ways, just to be clear here, I think Trump is almost like this, Inspector Gadget type political figure, where like he's just kind of walking around and things just all fall into place. But one of the things that Trump kind of revealed, even to people like myself, who
oh my God, wait, we got a new comment of the night. Tucker is the real life Ron Burgundy. Hilarious. The real life. I'm Ron Burgundy. I love it. Virgil said, I heard many cigar. Oh, come on, bro. I can't be reading that shit. Ovis said the other way around. The CIA tells the left what to do. Being not the other way around. What? Okay. Well, okay. So make your arguments. Make your arguments. What? Okay. Why is I'm not really sure what this means, but apparently you guys are in agreement against me. So make the claim. How is the CIA not left at all? MJ said, I think the 3-letter agencies are using whatever group may be leading their agency to continue to live. Yeah, that's basically what David was saying. But I'm confused to how these, like, how are you saying the CIA is in bed with anyone that doesn't push back? And then they're not left at all. When there's certainly a lot of pushback from the Trump and the MAGA and the America First caucus, if you want to say. He says the history of the 3-letter organizations all rose to power under conservative governments. Sure. Okay. What does that have to do with what they're doing right now? MJ said, I'm saying the CIA is not in bed. They are their own agenda to keep the CIA in power. And Zippy agrees. Ovis said the CIA controls Democratic politicians, not politicians controlling the CIA. That's where I'm coming from. So they're just moving these other groups around. I mean, I guess it's a little more complicated than they wanted to seem, huh?
Yeah. One of the things that Trump kind of revealed even to people like myself who probably, like if I was taking a written test on this, would have gotten the answer right before Trump, but to actually witness it and not just
wait. Opus is saying the CIA controls Democratic politicians. That would be okay. I see what you're saying. Okay, gotcha. So I got you. So not that they're capitulating to the left, but they're controlling the left, and so we're essentially saying the same thing, because I'm saying that the Democrats are an arm of the CIA, not that they control the CIA, but they essentially are the CIA. So I think we're all saying the same thing. I misunderstood what this originally meant, but yeah, okay, all right, we're all on the same page. See, all you gotta do is take the time and talk it out, and we understand.
The answer, like myself, who probably, like if I was taking a written test on this, would have gotten the answer right before Trump, but to actually witness it and not just on like an intellectual level, but to watch it happening, is that you're like, they do not work for the president. I mean, this is not something that idea. And it's almost as if we're talking about the federal government of the United States of America, and we're still discussing it as if there are these three co-equal branches of government, and the people elect the president and they elect the House of Representatives. And you're like, oh, that's not really the government we live under. Nope. That in fact, there's these whole other shadowy forces that are completely untied to that. They oversee the politicians much more than the politicians oversee them, and that's really who's kind of in charge. And then it's like, okay, we're talking about a whole different thing.
I mean, I could bore you for hours, but you're absolutely 100% right. It makes a mockery of democracy. And the defenders of democracy are the ones propping it up. It's also grotesque. But I would just say one thing, and that is that I know this for a fact, that the sitting president of the United States, there have been, of course, 40 odd since the Second World War, have routinely been left out of briefings on the two big programs that I know about. One is the UFO stuff, where there's a lot of evidence the U.S. government has had direct contact, maybe even negotiations.
Negotiations? What? Why have I not heard about this? And why hasn't the president heard about this? Like, Opus said, this is why we see the left point. This is why we see the left point and laugh at people on the right when we talk about the shadow government. Yep, because they won't take the time. Where we're all kind of saying the same thing with this stuff, and we're kind of disagreeing, but we're kind of saying different things, and taking the time to be like, okay, well, let's and even this commentator said, well, we seem to be confused, but you agreed with Opus, so I'm in agreement with Opus, so you agreed with me. But there's the fact that we just took the time to understand that is something else, is something that the average leftist is not going to do, because they're just going to claim that they're right. And if you divert from that, then you must be wrong. It's not that it's a different way to say it. It's not a different way to think about it. It is completely a one track mind. David said the three-letter clubs have had charge since the days the OSS worked with the Italian mob to invade Italy in World War II and bring back all those people to Ellis Island. Not familiar with that. Definitely got to read up on that. Shout out to Bobby Rizzo. Welcome to the party. Said Tucker Carlson applied for a job with the CIA before he became a TV personality. Makes sense. I don't think that necessarily an individual person who works for any of these agencies is necessarily a bad person. It's it's unfortunately the rhetoric that we have to use is it's the system. It's the system. It's so disconnected that any one agent is not likely to know the untoward effects of what, like, if you're just surveilling this guy, then you probably know about him and what he's doing, but you may not know anything else about what's going on, and so that's how they stay. So I don't even know the word. They stay so powerful is because they keep everything decentralized, and so it's the CIA. No one in the CIA can be more powerful than the CIA. Hunsick says CIA leans CIA, I think. Yep. That's what we've come to. They're not really trying their best for Biden. They're sure as shit trying harder for Trump, though. Burgess said, is it true? Bobby said, honestly, it's hard to trust anyone on TV, regardless of what side they claim to be on. Yeah, and I mean, you, David, you could just post it in the Discord. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's why I agree with you, Bobby. And that's why you have to not just trust anyone. You have to understand where people's biases lie. See what they're saying and apply the filter of, okay, I know that they're right wing, or I know that they're a boomer, or I know that they're rich, or I know that they're poor, or I know that they're black, or I know that they're whatever. What is the filter? Then you once what they say goes through that filter, then you can listen to somebody else who has a different filter, and whatever comes through both filters is the truth. I mean, not necessarily, but assuming you pick decent people. MJ said the CIA is the chess player, and these politicians are the pieces. Well said, well said. Obis said the CIA is going to get rid of Biden. He is a liability. Yeah, I'm not surprised. That would not surprise me.
With whatever.
Yeah, but David, post the link in the Discord.
Whatever these forces are, that's real, I think. But I know for a fact that presidents have not been briefed on that. One. Two is the Kennedy assassination in which the CIA was implicated. Not the whole CIA, but the operations directorate under Angleton had a role in that. That's just true. And I know for a fact that there have been a number of presidents, Richard Nixon famously on tape asked the CIA director about that. And he said, I think the CIA was involved in killing John, quote.
Yep.
And they did not respond. They did not brief him. And instead, they set in motion the wheels of Watergate, which had him out of office in less than a year. So that's not a democracy. That's an oligarchy by unelected spies. And there's nothing scarier than that. But
yeah, and if I'm sure you've heard this word before, but if you're not familiar with the oligarchy thing, is that it's not a monarchy where there's one central person who has the power. There's no king, but oligopoly means that there's a few. There's a few, and so it's spread maybe not equally, but relatively equally between the people in charge. But there's a huge difference between the 5, 6, however many people in charge and everybody else. Just like how the king is in charge, and then there's everybody else. In a democracy, we're not supposed to have a few people making decisions. We're supposed to be the people. We're all supposed to be deciding this stuff. But it doesn't happen that way. We are in a corporate capitalistic oligarchy, and there's no other way around that. Shout out to Melted Mind Media. Oh my god, oh my goodness, signing up for six months as a member, and that gets a treat for Morty. Thank you, sir, and welcome to the party. We got multiple sponsors, but out sponsoring the membership sponsor. Yeah, damn. Welcome, brother. Welcome.
by the way, last thing I'll say, if everyone talks about, the famous Eisenhower retirement speech where in 1960, where he talks about the military industrial complex, that's where that phrase comes from, that famous speech. Last year, I was on a freaking treadmill trying to lose weight, perpetual mission of mine. And I'm bored. So I was like, I'm going to find that on YouTube. I'd recommend to your listeners, watch that speech. I think it's only like 30 minutes long. Eisenhower wrote it himself. Two things you'll notice. One, it's written at the level of like postgraduate. Like the average American had such a higher IQ, it was so much more literate in 1960 than now. People wouldn't even understand what he was saying. A. B. Eisenhower was like deeply distressed by the power of the Pentagon and the CIA and said so in public. And he's like, their budgets are too big thanks to the Second World War. And this is
shout out again to Melted Mind Media, another awesome YouTuber. Just dropped the link to his channel. Please go check that out. Thank you, sir.
Going to end democracy. He said that on television in front of everybody. It's totally worth watching. And he was right.
And hands the country over to John F. Kennedy. I mean, this is like for people, like this is the next president that comes right in on the heels of that. Right. And then also, this is something I remember you talking about this when you covered it, because it's so like I was a kid. I'm born in 1983. It's like I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. And at that point, the only thing you knew about Richard Nixon was like, yeah, he was the most corrupt president. And it's like this tiny little detail that's left out that he was the most popular president. That he was he won 49 states.
Yeah, it was only, I mean, within, I wish I could remember the context, but it's specifically within this past year. There was, I don't know, I was talking about something and probably having to do with the, certifying the votes in Hawaii or whatever that was. But I didn't know that Nixon was a very popular president. I just didn't know because all you ever hear is Watergate, Watergate, Watergate. I am not a crook. And if you don't look into it, nobody tells you this stuff. And so it's important. It's so important to understand the difference between legacy and history and reality. It's just a little bit different on each one. I've said it's like people really think we couldn't shut off the flow of drugs virtually completely. Come on. We could shut that down completely in a year. But drugs is how they keep people down, control people, and make money. Okay, how would you say that? What would be the plan? What would be if you were the president or whoever you need to be to stop to shut it all down? What would that look like? How does that work out?
Dilly dilly. Dilly dilly.
I said shit. Me too.
Dilly dilly.
Haram. I don't have that button anymore. I need to bring it back though. There's some other. I don't know. I could get rid of some of these, but haram. Do you see Tucker's face window glitching in and out in the background? Nope. That's just you. Gang, gang. MJ said to shut it down, you have to remove the CIA. Okay, fair. But so then, okay. So walk me through it. So we get rid of the CIA. Okay. CIA is shut down. And then so now we got to so we shutting down Big Pharma or I mean cuz we need pharmaceutical stuff. I need my narcotics. I need them. So, yeah, how would you shut it down? Close the southern border and search every container ship coming into the country. Are you aware of the level to which they are, so like the percentage of shipping containers that they search? Because that's if it's a very low percentage right now, then we're talking about a lot of money and a lot of man hours to check every single shipping container. That's a lot of shipping containers, and definitely doable. But is it, like we're talking with I think that was you, right? Saying that they want to keep us down and everything. Yeah. So the doable part is kind of the issue, right? It's possible, but it's not doable because of this. MJ said, before the CIA started to support the drug business, Big Pharma wasn't drugging Americans. Well, look at that. It's almost like more government doesn't mean better government. Almost, right? Yeah, that's kind of where my head was at. Is that like every single thing? I mean, even if you catch 90% of the drugs, like 90% of all drugs, there's still a lot of drugs out there. We would definitely be better off with 90% of the illegal drugs not on the streets. Don't get me wrong. But all that would do is drive the prices up. I'm just saying, see if the CIA and Fed didn't, the federal government didn't support that Big Pharma, then the drugs that actually made in real factories, not in cartel factories. True. Not making an argument whether good drugs are good or bad. I mean, well, aren't we? If you're saying that you want to stop something, then you're saying that it's a bad thing. Okay, so then restate, please. Yeah, no, I don't know. So maybe we're missing the point. Let's we'll dive back in, give Opus the opportunity to. All right. Come on up. All I'm saying is that drugs are big business, and it is big business for the CIA. So if you would like to come up, The link is pinned. You must cam up.
He won
His
by the biggest
re-election-
margin ever,
Yes.
16 million votes in 1972. Biggest margin ever recorded. Yeah.
And he's gone shortly after that, and they control the narrative so much that the narrative almost becomes like, yeah, the people really didn't like him. They really didn't like him so much. We had to get him out of there.
Well, what's so crazy is that he was undone by this guy famously called Bob Woodward, who's still around, still writing books, still getting the participation of all of our leaders. Who was Bob Woodward in 1973? Was he a famous journalist? He got the biggest story in the world was handed to him by Ben Bradley, the editor of the Washington Post. No, he was not a journalist. He was a naval intel officer who'd been detailed to the White House, the Nixon White House. That's a fact. Look it up. And yet somehow he winds up with this story that topples a president. And his main source, who was the main source? That was Mark Felt, the deputy director of the FBI, who ran the COINTEL program.
Yeah.
What?
Where you at, MJ? I dropped the link. Waiting for you.
This is not conspiracy stuff. This is like on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And whatever says it, it's crazy. And by the way, who replaced Nixon? Gerald Ford, unelected, who happened to be on the what? Oh, the Warren Commission.
Yeah.
How Nixon pick Ford? Well, because they took out his VP Spiro Agnew on a tax charge. And then Carl Albert, who was the Democratic leader in the House, said, you are picking Gerald Ford. And he did.
A nice little laugh before we welcome our guest, MJ. Welcome to the party. How are you?
Dying.
Dying? Why are you dying? Don't die. We don't like that.
For 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
So I think what they're trying to say in the One Piece is drugs are not good or bad. It's like saying guns kill people, so pencils misspell words. So cars kill individuals. So he's not saying a drug is bad or good. He's saying how it's being thrown on communities and how it's destroying people's lives. That would be the bad thing. And that's what I would say the same way. So an aspirin can be good or bad.
Sure.
It can be really bad if you have if you're taking blood thinners and you take a whole bunch of aspirin and then you bleed out and die. But it can also get rid of a headache. So it depends on the context. So I think that's what you're saying.
Well, if we go back to Opus's original comment, he said it's like people really think we couldn't shut off the flow of drugs virtually completely. Come on, we could shut that shit down completely in a year. But drugs is how they keep people down, control people, and make money. So my question was just, how do you do that? I wasn't making a moral judgment there either. I was just asking what the process is. And I'm not. That's where you're like, oh no, drop the leg.
You can't shut down anything. Once the door's been open on something, it'll be there. The question is how much you can allow trickle through. True. At that point. So even before there was like what we call the fentanyl, and before the heroin, and before the cocaine all came out, when the CIA helped invent some of these drugs that we have right now, it was pretty much alcohol, and there was some opioids from the actual real poppies at that point. But the government wasn't having its agencies trying to promote these various factions all over the world to manipulate and then eventually manipulate our own people. Before, they used to just manipulate out and about away from the US. And now around World War II, when the CIA popped up afterwards, that's when it seems to be they turned more internal. They came after their own public versus where we were meddling everywhere else instead. But you could really cut down a lot. If they wanted to cut down on it, you can put focus energy on anything to reduce something down. They might not be completely zero, but you can make it so unprofitable for the drug cartels that it wouldn't be worth their desire to do that. And they're going to find a different avenue to make their money on. So that's what.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with you. I think the issue is, again, we're trying to say that we're not making a moral judgment, but again, Opus you're coming back and say drugs are the deep state's number one tool for steering civilization. We would say steering civilization is a bad thing.
Well, right now, drugs are steering civilization. The Roman Catholic Church back in the Middle Ages, that was steering civilization. So the tool changes. It's just whatever your power happens to be. So those are only two I can think of at the moment because I have flu fog brain. So thank you for letting me pop on. So sorry for having a horrible
No, not a problem. Thank you for coming up and giving your thoughts. Definitely cleared everything up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you feel better. Take care. All right. So, yeah, a little bit of understanding, you know? So Steffi said, okay, except aspirin is aspirin. What good is heroin for anyone? That used to be the main painkiller that they used. The only reason we have opiates now is because the addictive nature of heroin. And the like used to be able to, they used to have aspirin with heroin in it. Let's see here. Let's see if I can legal heroin what let's see, where are we at here? Yeah, they used to have like, okay, let's see this one. Yeah, like this was just straight up, it was heroin. This was the drug that, okay, you had a headache and you take some heroin. The only reason we have the opioids now, like I said, is because it wasn't being used in such a way that, like, this is just a bottle of it. Like, if you were to just drink, I don't know how that works, but you could just do that. And so they needed to create a different style of the same thing. It's still made from the opium plants. It's the exact same thing. What a nuance emoji for what? I don't get it. Never tried crack. It snorted heroin, never shot it. Wouldn't suggest it. Yeah, no. Yeah, but Hunter Biden's dealer. Yep. And that would be like giving Austin for a stub toe. Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much how they use it. Zippy said, why do you need a fast car? It never ends well when you give government the power to ban things. Yep. MJ said, forgot to say, anyone on a Mac, make sure you have a Google or MS browser. The stream doesn't work on Safari. Thank you for the info. Bouncing said, eventually, pharma drugs are just better than street drugs. Yeah, that's because we're actually putting the scientific effort into making the least more powerful, smaller doses, less side effects, all that kind of stuff. Street drugs are, it does what it does, but I mean, if you OD, you OD,
It really is like it's out of a movie, man. And it does that, like,
shout out to Ayush. Apparently Safari works. So if it doesn't, then just try Google.
I get where it does sound like, if people don't follow this stuff, it sounds like nutty conspiracy talk. And it is conspiracy talk. It is a conspiracy. It's just not a theory. It's just like, no, this is all like documented.
And Bob Woodward, I mean, like, I know Bob Woodward pretty well. I lived right down the street from Bob Woodward in Georgetown as a kid. And it's like, I'm not attacking, he's a perfectly nice guy and he's not stupid, actually. But the idea that, he's just a shoe leather journalist. No, he was a naval intel officer who somehow wind up as like one of his very first stories at the Washington Post is Watergate. Like, that's just so obviously bullshit that, like,
yeah, that's just not how it works.
One person say that, not one person. Why?
Right. And it's such an interesting story that you're like, it kind of goes to show you, that's why like, you would want to talk about this if you were just trying to get eyeballs on your show, but no one will touch it. At least in the corporate media, nobody will touch it.
Why though? It's so look. I mean,
because they're scared.
I'm 54, and my kids are grown, so I don't really care. But like, I just think if you're in this business and you're not curious, the question is, why are you in this business? Like,
well, they're curious. They're just afraid. There is a culture that has been that has emerged that is based on fear of saying the wrong thing, being the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, and in a way that's not realistic. You should have a fear of doing the wrong thing, in the sense that there's a reason why you don't want to steal somebody because you get arrested. Yes, you should have that fear that if I do that. But it's a very different and much more overarching and heavy and unfair paradigm of who you are, and anything outside of that is so drastic that it's not that I'm not curious. It's just that I know if I step out of line, I'm in trouble.
The whole point is curiosity. Like, wow, tell me how that happened. That's an amazing story. Like, that's That's why I do this. That's why I got into this in the first place. No one is interested in anything. It's like bizarre. It's like, shut up. Everything you heard in 4th grade is true. Shut up, racist.
And this again comes back to the idea of where do you draw the line of conspiracy? What are you willing to accept outside the official narrative? Ayush said, are you planning to reacting to the DeSantis Newsom debate any of these days? Some of the clips were fire. No, I was thinking about doing it tonight. Obviously, they did it last night. I don't think it's that valuable. I think we've spent a lot of time talking about how Ron speaks and what he does well and what he doesn't do well. I don't think Newsom is going to be. I don't think that analysis is going to be very deep if it becomes relevant. Right now, he's not relevant because we are still under the assumption that Biden is running. But if he does, then it'll be very easy to at that point. Now, okay, where are we now? I just felt like it was, I watched it, and some of the clips were fire. And I was talking about earlier saying how when we're watching the primary debates, and it's like, oh, DeSantis, bro, come on, and then you zoom out, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. He's a lot better. He's a lot better than the other guy. It reminds you how there's levels. There's levels to this shit. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. As long as Trump is around, it doesn't matter. Thank you. Oh wait, I gotta read these first. Virgil said his friend was a prison guard and gave Epstein some weed. Pretty cool. What shoes did DeSantis wear? The ones with heels in them. What do you mean? I didn't think it was that terrible. I'm definitely not a liar. You may disagree with me, but coming at this hot energy. I'm a liar. How dare you?
How dare you?
I ain't lying to nobody. Yep. Oh yeah.
Would you remember? I'm blanking on her name. Maybe you remember it. But it was the ABC reporter.
Amy. If he's about, I have Epstein on the brain because of Virgil here, but Amy, if that's what he's talking about,
who she had the hot mic tape that leaked where she was talking about how she had the Epstein story broke.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you?
Years before,
Amy,
and they told her to squash it because it might mess up the relationship with the royal family.
Yeah, what happened to her? Do you know?
I don't. I'm not sure where she is. But
It's Amy Robach. It was Amy Robach who I worked.
Robach. There you go. I knew it was Amy. All right, go ahead. Go. You're standing. Okay. I just said, could you also say that people are overly concerned for the outcomes of their actions, questions, and words? Absolutely. It's not about a lack of curiosity. It's about an understanding of what happens for these outcomes. Absolutely. So we said DeSantis on heel skating. You said Stephanie's giving her take on the RDS. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no, I figured that. Gotcha.
With it at another, the cable arm of NBC News years ago. I didn't know her very well, but she's totally nice. She says that on the air, and I'm not a conspiracy nut. I've just, everything I know, I read in the Daily Mail. I'm just telling you, Dave. And then 2 or 3 years later, she gets bounced out of her job at ABC because she had an affair. Now, I'm not endorsing affairs. I'm not having one. I'm against them. However, if we were to fire everybody in television who's having an affair with a coworker, no one would.
No more TV.
Report for work. That's not a fireable offense.
Even Gavin Newsom doesn't want his state to be like California.
NBC might need to find a new morning show. I'll say that much.
Literally, exactly. And just trust me, that's not a criterion for firing. And yet Amy Robach got fired for having an affair. That's kind of weird.
Right.
It's like
I forgot about that
way
part.
to fire Amy Robach since she got caught. And by the way, they made her apologize for it. They made her apologize, and she issues this hostage statement trying to keep her job. When I said the Epstein stuff was real, I was just kidding.
Well, it seems I can't wait for the Veeps debate. Kamala Queen Harris is a once-in-a-lifetime comedian. I am running, okay, to be being vice president. See, we have 2 people in the White House. Not 2 on 2, but 4, but 2 for this and 2 for that. In the White House, you have a president, okay? And then under the president, it's like a best friend, but a little bit different. You have the vice president. I cannot stand her. I cannot stand her. She literally cannot open her mouth without being a joke. I cannot stand her. Shout out to Rhett in Action. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party, brother. Another gaming YouTuber. Just dropping a link to his channel. Go check that out if that is what you are into. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party, brother. Kami Math Kamala. Ooh, that's a good one. I was just like, bro, you're making too much sense in your mimicry. It's taken a lot of time to study the ways. We have a wild Kamala Harris grazing on the dick of the man who will give her a job. We watch her in her natural habitat. I don't know where else to go with that. The British royal German family know how to take down traitors with the accidents. I'm not too familiar with the British royal German family. What is the British royal German family? Sarah Miller said, dude, she got the VP and quickly realized it was more than she can handle and started popping pills. Is that it? She's slurred all the time. Is that it? She's railing some oxys? Wouldn't be.
What?
So bizarre, but and there's something else you touched on that I was really thinking about a lot. I think about this a lot, but just this, it was a good example of it. But if you look at the
Yo, Mr. Bean vibes, I gotta at least give a dilly to that. She got Mr. Bean vibes.
Farewell address by Eisenhower. And that is one of the things if you just listen to old political speeches, yes. Right? Even listen to the first televised presidential debates, which were that same year between Jack Kennedy and Richard Nixon. You could tell they're just talking to a smarter country. Oh. There's no way you could talk like that to the American people today. You'd be like, yeah, that's good. What are you going to get 2% of the voting population with this?
I take issue with the word smarter there. I have a feeling that what he's actually meaning to say is that people in that time were able to be a lot more engaged in what's going on, partly because there was, I want to say partly because there was less subversion, but I feel like that's bullshit, so let me not say that. But there was a much more focus on what is it that we're talking about? What are the positions on the issues? And because, everything has been decentralized with social media, I don't think it's a matter of smarter or dumber, although that may also be part of it. I think it has to do with the level of understanding of what's going on, or the level of understanding of what we're talking about. Because there's so much to know and see and do and think about and watch and whatever, then people aren't paying attention to the one speech from the one guy. You know what I mean? How many of you actually watched the debate last night? Nobody was missing a debate like that for in the 60s. Like everybody would sit around and watch that. So I think it's just a little bit. I don't like the word smarter. So says she talks like a teenager trying to convince her parents that she's sober. Oh my God. Yeah, well, a little bit of a speedball. Sounds like Xena Kamala breakdown show. Who's the real Kamala and why? Wait, I gotta read yours first, Virgil. He said, can't even get arrested in this godforsaken town. Which? Manchester, Huntsville, or New York City? The birds are really fussy. More chance of getting hit by lightning while being attacked by a great white shark than getting a leg over.
What?
Waited 10 minutes for what? Well, she pops a couple Zans of the shot of whiskey before each. Really? I did not know that. Queen Victoria was famously known as the grandmother of Europe, and it was her marriage to the German Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and the Gotha that cemented the British monarch's German ties. Fair enough. Learn something new every day. Mike said Kamala called Biden racist during the debates, and then she decided to become his vice president. Well, that making her his vice president actually erased the racism. So she created the opportunity for us to not have a racist president by being the vice president. That's how it works. Crazy. Yeah, I had no idea. Good to know. Good to know.
You got to dumb it down. And in some ways, by the way, this is why Donald Trump figured out how to hack modern politics.
That's a good point. That if you want to stick with the, hey, Americans are dumber today, that does make sense.
There's no way you could talk like that to the American people today. You'd be like, yeah, that's good. What are you going to get 2% of the voting population with this? You got to dumb it down. And in some ways, by the way, this is why Donald Trump figured out how to hack modern politics, because he's like, I'll take it to kindergarten. How about that? Like,
right. It's totally right. And the amount of lying that accumulates like barnacles on a ship about people and eras and all this stuff is remarkable. And you notice it when you go back. And so I actually made a practice of doing this. Just like you read about some, I'll give you a great example, Malcolm X. Okay, I read the autobiography.
Before we go there, let's see what we got here. Some highlights from the first televised debate.
Television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities for a discussion of issues in the current political campaign by the two major candidates for the presidency. The candidates need no introduction. The Republican candidate, Vice President Richard M. Nixon, and the Democratic candidate, Senator John F. Kennedy. According to rules set by the candidates themselves, each man shall make an opening statement of approximately...
Yeah, that's exactly, MJ, exactly. It's not that they were dumber. It's just that they had less distractions. And so the things that they paid attention to were more relevant. That's exactly what I meant. Exactly. Good point. No. They had radio and movies primarily. Also, they didn't have access to information like we do today. We rely on Google's and Wikipedia and such. Yep. Yeah. Kamala over Oprah? That's a tough. I don't know. What do you guys think? Kamala or Oprah? All right, this is the whole thing here. So let's go to this bump. Let's see what they're talking.
To the effect that the United States has been standing still. We heard tonight, for example, the statement made that our growth in national product last year was the lowest of any industrial nation in the world. Now, last year, of course, was 1958. That happened to be a recession year. But when we look at the growth of GNP this year, a year of recovery, we find that it's 6 9/10% and one of the highest in the world today. More about that later.
More about that later. But first, let's hear from our sponsor.
Looking then to this problem of how the United States should move ahead and where the United States is moving, I think it is well that we take the advice of a very...
You know that's Nixon, right? That's we haven't heard from JFK.
Famous campaigner. Let's look at the record. Is the United States standing still? Is it true?
All right.
That you are naive and at times...
Okay, let's get the actual question.
I'm Stuart Novin, CBS News.
Bob Fleming, ABC News.
The first question to Senator Kennedy from Mr. Fleming.
Senator, the Vice President in his campaign has said that you are naive and at times immature. He has raised the question of leadership. On this issue, why do you think people should vote for you rather than the Vice President?
The Vice President and I came to the Congress together in 1946. We both served in the Labor Committee. I've been there now for 14 years, the same period of time that he has.
So again, remember, the claim from Dave Smith is that this particular debate was for an audience of people who are smarter Americans than we have today.
So that our experience in government is comparable. Secondly, I think the question is, what are the programs that we advocate? What is the party record that we lead? I come out of the Democratic Party, which in this century has produced Woodrow Wilson and Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman, and which supported and sustained these programs which I've discussed tonight. Mr. Nixon comes out of the Republican Party. He was nominated by it. And it is a fact that through most of these last 25 years, the Republican leadership has opposed federal aid for education, medical care for the aged, development of the Tennessee Valley, development of our natural resources. I think Mr. Nixon is an effective leader of his party. I hope he would grant me the same. The question before us is, which point of view and which party do we want to lead the United States?
You mean his accent? That's the Boston accent. I don't do a good Boston accent, but I'm not hearing anything that would be like, oh, you think that an American audience today would be able to understand this? I don't know. And Bonzig's loving it. Bonzig's loving it. All right, let's listen a little bit more.
Mr. Nixon, would you like to comment on
Let's
that
hear the
statement?
response.
The next question, Mr. Novin.
Does he have like, they missed it, but he had like some spittle.
Mr. Vice President, your campaign stresses the value of your 8-year experience. And the question arises as to whether that experience was as an observer or as a participant or as
I'm very well aware of this.
Policy making. Would you tell us, please, specifically what major proposals you have made in the last 8 years that have been adopted by the administration?
It would be rather difficult to cover them in 2.5 minutes.
Hey.
I would suggest that these proposals could be mentioned. First, after each of my foreign trips, I have made recommendations that have been adopted. For example, after my first trip abroad, I strongly recommended that we increase our exchange programs, particularly as they related to exchange of persons, of leaders in the labor field and in the information field.
I got to disagree with Dave, and it seems like he's just looking back at this time with rose-colored glasses. Just saying that, I mean, no, like I don't think there's anything. Obviously, we only watched a couple of things, but I don't see anything like intellectually higher than what we see today. It's different. It's certainly different. But Mike's talking. I agree with Mike and think that we're way more politically savvy now than then, specifically because of the fact that even though people were more tuned into what was being broadcast, a lot less of the reality was being broadcast. So I gotta disagree with Dave there. Hey, shout out to Basil, the Pompin Seagull. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Goddamn, the Jesus likes to hit that vape. Indeed, I do. Welcome to the party. All right, where were we?
Is remarkable, and you notice it when you go back. And so I actually made a practice of doing this, just like you read about some. I'll give you a great example. Malcolm X. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X when I was a kid.
This would not surprise me in the least. MJ said, I think Dave Smith should have said, for an audience that was more knowledgeable about politics and the issues at the time than people today. I think that's what he meant, which is why I'm not like coming down too hard. I disagree with the framing, but this is more in line with what I think he means. Nixon's dead, so had bad posture, but fair enough. Not the accent. All the people are sounding bass heavily. I was gonna say, yeah, it's probably the microphones. The treble, the crispness. They didn't have the ASMR mics. Yeah, they couldn't do that back then. Shout out to Basil, the Pumpkin Seagull. Or do you gotta come here to get your treat? Let's go. Come on. There you go. So you should BC 2 milligram. I don't know about that, but I will definitely give him a treat right here. Thank you, sir. That's right. Every single super chat donation comes with a treat for Morty. Thank you, sir.
I don't know what I think of it. He hated whites. I'm white. I guess I'm against Malcolm X, but I didn't know much about him. And a few years ago, again, running on the treadmill, I watched a Malcolm X speech from right before he was killed. He was killed in 1965 in Harlem, famously, right while giving a speech. But this was like maybe a couple months before. Go watch a Malcolm X speech. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a black Muslim. I don't agree with everything he said. But Malcolm X had two qualities that left me kind of shocked. Really smart, like legit smart, not grading on a curve smart, like just smart. And second, very funny.
Yeah.
And I have to say, whatever you think of Martin Luther King, he's fine, I guess, but no sense of humor and honestly, not a genius, a plagiarist. Malcolm X was like a legit smart guy, said, a lot of things I disagreed with. Again, as a white Christian, I'm not in favor of black Muslims. However, it was not all crazy at all. A lot of it was great and super smart and super insightful. And I finished that speech and I thought, wow, I guess I know why they killed him.
Yeah, and as Biz was saying, people are more involved politically now, but with junk information. And yes, today people wouldn't know anything about the GDP or recession, but some people will, and the people who don't will have no fucking clue. Whereas in the past, it was more everybody was kind of on a kind of knew what was going on based on what they told you. So I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough comparison. I'm just saying, I think today's America doesn't have the love for the country that people did in the 60s. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is exactly the whole point of this conversation, this stream, this channel, is that we need to bring that back. We need to bring that back. Everything that we know and love about America, about American life, all of that is based on patriotism and culture and love for that culture. We need it. Which goes on. So Americans are more aware of the nasty things that the American government has done and is still doing. Yep, absolutely.
He hated white liberals too. He had this great riff.
Yes.
To watch him. He's like, oh, whites are bad. You're like, we're against whites here. Okay, fine. But the white liberals are scary because they're like, oh, I'm your friend. He goes, they're liars. And that's true.
Yeah,
it is true.
Oh, he's great. Him eviscerating white liberals is some of the best stuff ever. And really, really great speech, great orator, and very smart guy. And listen, but I'll tell you this: whatever this atrophy in like the intelligence of the American people, I think it's accelerating. I mean, it's look, and again, just like you said, I'll disclaimer as well. I'm talking about people who I don't necessarily like. Like, I view Bill Buckley as one of like the great villains of the 20th century. I think he ruined.
I couldn't agree more.
Yes, but he was clearly also CIA, by the way, but he was also a very intelligent guy and witty, and was not speaking down to his audience, and like a popular show, his firing line show would be Gore Vidal and William F. Buckley arguing with each other. I mean, but look, even then, when I remember my mother and my stepfather, they used to love Crossfire. This is before you came out. They watched when you were there too, but when I was a little kid, it was.
Put a 1 in the chat if you're not familiar with what they're talking about with Crossfire, because I do think it is kind of important to see kind of who Tucker was before he was Tucker.
It was the Pat Buchanan,
like the bow tie date,
and Kinsley, is that his name?
Yeah, Michael Kinsley, who was
Michael Kinsley,
the last really smart liberal in America,
right? And they were on Kinsley's side, like they were liberals. They were not on Pat Buchanan's side, but they certainly respected that Pat Buchanan was brilliant and like that it was an interesting conversation. And and then even going to. Look, I mean, I remember I used to watch your show on MSNBC, and when the lineup there on MSNBC, even though a lot of the same people.
And I'm already with you thinking, wait, Tucker was on MSNBC?
Were there. It was just so much smarter than it is today. I know we've talked off air and you don't have TV or watch TV or anything, but man, Tucker, you have no idea how dumb it is today. I mean, it's just like, this is not that long ago. This is like maybe 2006 I'm talking about. And Rachel Maddow had not lost her mind yet, and she was very intelligent. In fact, Rachel Maddow, I believe right around that time, wrote a book about the military-industrial complex, which was really good. I'm blanking. I own it. I'm blanking on the name of it. Drift maybe or something like that. Anyway, but it was like about the George W. Bush administration, so it was safe for a liberal to write a really great book about how like the military was lying us into all of these wars. Scarborough's show would have you on regularly and Pat Buchanan on regularly. And
so, yeah, I mean, basically what he's talking about is the show Crossfire was meant to be, I guess, a similar version of what the Culture War podcast is with Tim Pool now, which would bring two people who are bigger names on their side or have a claim to fame or whatever, and then somebody opposing them. And so you have them, directly speaking to each other. I never really watched the show either. Again, not politically engaged when that was popular. But I do remember when what's his name, Jon Stewart went on, and it was Tucker. And let's watch that. So Jon Stewart Crossfire.
Meanwhile, the president's challenger was also in New York, also facing some difficult questions.
How do you stay in shape?
Do you eat something?
Do you have?
Why do we have to fight?
So we have.
Can't we just say something nice about John Kerry right now?
I like John. I care about John Kerry.
And something about
So there's Bowtie Tucker. This was his standard attire.
President Bush.
He'll be unemployed soon. I failed it. See, I made the effort.
And so Tucker's obviously the right guy, and this guy's on the left.
No, actually, I knew Bush in Texas a little bit, and truth is, he's actually a great guy. He's not a very good president, but he's actually a very good person. I don't think you should have to hate to oppose somebody, but it makes it easier.
Why do you argue? The two of you? I hate to see it.
We enjoy it.
Let me ask you a question.
Wait, let me ask you a question first.
All right.
Is John Kerry really the best? I mean, I think, John Kerry's not a terrible guy.
Like, I thought Lincoln was good.
Is he the best the Democrats can do?
Is he the best the Democrats can do?
this year.
I'd always thought in a democracy, and again, I don't know, I've only lived in this country, that there's a process, what they call them primaries.
Right.
And they don't always go with the best, but they go with whoever won. So is he the best? According to the process.
Right, but of the 9 guys running, who do you think was best? Do you think he was the best? The most impressive?
The most impressive?
Yeah.
I mean, just a pretty standard, news show. And that's the format. That one was specifically with Jon Stewart being the moderator person. That wasn't always what it was, but always meant to foster conversation. And I don't know why that went away, but we definitely needed a thing like the Culture War podcast to have people come together from opposing sides and be able to actually talk to each other. Von Zig said, I like the pushback and the way the channel debates. To think Lutch was an I'm with her guy, that's big growth. I'm proud of you. Thank you. Let's drink to change. Let's drink to growth. Dilly. Mike says, difference between the presidents in the past were not so far apart in their beliefs. It didn't matter as much who was elected. There were small nuances between the parties. Yep. Virgil said, Tucker is a genius and very handsome. You just asked me to get him off the show. Bonzig said, Tux was reporting in Iraq, too. He's done a nice Nelk Boys pod. No, we won't be covering that because they are very copyright heavy. And just to be fair, high school grads today know nothing. High school grads in the 60s were doing what they teach at a junior level in college. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about. That it's really rearing its head. The difference that MJ is talking about had a big jump with COVID, and now they're talking about how your average seventh grader cannot do the work of what previously was for the remedial 5th grade class. The average 7th grader, and this is, I don't know if there's a study, but this is just what teachers are saying. They're literally saying, I'm giving this piece of paper. I used to give this to my 5th grade remedial. This is your test. You got to do that. And they would pass. Now I'm using this exact same test and I'm giving it to our regular 7th graders and they don't know what the fuck to do with it. They said, I want to see a debate between David Benatar and Matt Dillahunty. I'm not familiar with David Benatar. I assume he's a Christian of sorts, but I'm always down to watch a Dillahunty debate. And she said, I wouldn't have made it out of high school math in the 60s. Yeah, well, they used to, we used to have a little bit higher standards. Zippy said, I used to watch the Talking Heads show on PBS. Blucky was a trip in the 90s. Opa said, I like Bowtie Tucker. It said, I don't take myself too seriously. Yeah, I agree. I'll say, I hope we get Don Lemon back. No. First of all, we don't need Don Lemon to be on CNN in order for PBD to interview him. 2, PBD would not waste his time with a schmuck like that. 3, I don't think there is anything that Don Lemon could say to redeem himself. I don't think there is anything he could say to redeem himself. Bonzik said, I feel like John was kind of being a dick and bullying John was being a dick and a bully to the young Tucks. Well, yeah, but again, that's always been the roles that they played. And that was the point of the show as well, is to come and, butt heads. Poor guy got trauma for this. I don't think so. I don't know about all that. So he said, remember the early aughts, they got rid of the fairness doctrine. So he no longer has to front and pretend to have different opinions on the same show. Bezos said Trump should come out as a transgender person. And that way we can say, I'm with her. I don't know about all that. I don't know about all of that. So we need to go back to random testing, force the teachers to teach. Sounds good to me. Just remember, America isn't a democracy. We are a republic. It's in the Pledge of Allegiance. So David Penner is an anti-natalist. Anti-natalist. I don't think I know what that means. Anti-natalist. Is that like anti-baby? Anti-natalist. Believe that having children is wrong. Okay. That's a weird hill to die on, but fair enough. Opus said, I graduated in 2000, and what we were learning was more advanced than my parents at the same age. How far things have fallen. Yep. Indeed.
I thought Al Sharpton, even like Ron Paul would be on regularly, and there would be just really interesting conversations, and everyone didn't seem to hate each other as much. You and Rachel Maddow would have some one-on-one things where you'd argue, but it was kind of in the spirit of like, we like each other, but we disagree. And even just since then, like, you can't fathom that happening today. You can't fathom.
And it's weird. I mean, I know that, I worked there for 4 years, and back when it was trying to like become conservative, or they didn't know what they were. I mean, they would be anything that worked. And in the end, Rachel worked a lot better than I did. So they fired me and gave her my show, and I always got along with her very well. But like, and I still have talked to her and get along with her great. But Joe Scarborough, like, something broke there. And he's, to me, is like, I always liked Joe. He
broke. His whole shit just got fucked up.
Always whisper at the company that he had murdered, someone who worked for him. I didn't have views on that,
Virgil, that you?
But a lot of people thought that he did it. I didn't know. But I will tell you that I got along with him really, really well. He was my fill-in guy when I was on vacation. And like, I look up in like maybe an airport, news stand, and they're playing.
Facts, Opus. Facts. I think everyone can agree that America was robbed by not getting a Ron Paul presidency. Absolutely robbed. I mean, there's no other way. There's no other way to think about that. Absolutely right. You got that. You're talking to yourself. Cool.
And Joe Scarborough's like insane and like angry. Now, maybe it's like his personal life. I don't know what it is, but I think that brand of neoliberalism became highly venomous and hate-filled, not analytical at all. Nothing dispassionate or reasonable about it, but like,
agree with me or you are evil and you deserve to die.
Completely like kill the other guy. And I just never in my life thought Joe Scarborough, I mean, maybe he goes liberal, that's fine. But to go neoliberal and hate-filled, I was like blown away. I still don't understand.
Yeah, and I cannot wrap my head around people who used to be conservative, and then within the time between, let's say, from Obama to the end of Trump, they went from conservative to liberal in that time. That does not make sense to me. I don't understand. What is it that you are seeing that is? I don't even know where to start. If you were voting for John Kerry against Obama, and then Obama wins, and then you somehow like him more?
What? Here's a good example of this, and I sent you these tweets if you remember. But so Scarborough, he said something, and I responded to him, and then this kind of, I guess, because Rogan's show is so big that this is so weird to me because I'm just in my own little world. I do stand-up comedy and I talk about the news and like, I don't know, these are the people on TV or whatever. But so I said something to him because he was trashing Trump supporters. And I just said something back to him about it being like elitist, and he knew who I was. So he goes, "Oh, so the guy who thinks that the U.S. provoked Putin into invading Iraq, and we provoked Osama bin Laden into fighting, into doing 9/11. This is the guy who thinks I'm un-American for attacking Trump supporters."
Yeah, exactly. It's usually the other way around. Because, I mean, as the old saying goes, if you're not a liberal when you're young, you have no heart. And if you're not more conservative as you get older, you have no brain. And yeah, Opus is right. Obama could have made a lot of conservatives go liberal if he hadn't been such a turncoat. And so that's why it's so confusing to me. Is that like if he was the president that everybody tries to remember that he is, then it would make sense. But he wasn't that guy. And everybody, looks back and is like, well, yeah, we voted for him because he's black. That's it. Didn't really like him. But we're not going to say anything bad about him. That's it. I don't get it. So he said globalism broke the world. The market no longer catered to the local people, so politics and everything goes askew chasing world money, ignoring local trade because it's not important.
Bingo!
Yep. Thanks, Obama.
And there was just this weird moment where, because when I first, like around that time when you guys were on MSNBC together, is when I got into the Ron Paul movements. I was really into politics. And so I loved everything that was even libertarian-ish. So I'm just like, excuse me, Mr. Scarborough, but I read your book. And in your book, you told me that you voted for Ron Paul.
Based.
So how outraged are you that I'm making the argument of blowback? You told me you voted for Ron Paul for president of these United States of America. So where did this come from that is somehow now this like off limits, out of bounds opinion, when that was the central message of Ron Paul's presidential campaigns?
And essentially that's what I mean. Is that it makes logical sense to hold stupid liberal positions, and then over time they slightly morph into like, oh, okay, that's why that's idealistic. That's why that's not realistic. That's why, but it doesn't necessarily work the other way around. It absolutely can and absolutely does. I mean, Destiny is one of those people who grew up in a conservative family, and I don't know how conservative he really was. He says that I'm not. I mean, somebody could vouch for his early content, but I don't know if it was so much that he was conservative or his family was conservative. I don't know that he was like in his early streams. Was he talking about like, oh yeah, we got to vote for Ron Paul? Was that what he was doing, or does he just say that in the sense that my family is super conservative and I just kind of drifted away from them? That's what I really wonder. But either way, it's like, okay, Destiny did it. Even if he was full blown like rah-rah Republicans, and now he's like, let's go Joe Biden. He's the exception. Where is the like? How does it make sense for anybody else to get there? We can get Tom Lemon on The View. Yeah, probably. Gotta read Virgil's thing real quick. Okay, Narcor. Yep. I think Obama is in that bloodline theory. Families of the Bushes, I think. Crazy.
Was that the terrorism was blowback for American foreign policy in the Middle East? It's not justifying it, of course, but to kind of understand that there's a relationship here. Like Pat Buchanan said, terrorism is the price of empire.
I'm kind of with you, bro. Like, he talks so much about how we used to be conservative. Now, I didn't follow him. Maybe he was. Maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But there's a big difference. And I will draw a parallel. There's a big difference between somebody who grew up Christian and then went to college and then just kind of wasn't into it and then came back to the church, and somebody like myself who read and looked up lots of, really dove into the intellectual academic side of this stuff, and have lost my faith for the different, like the number of people. Oh yeah, I went through an atheist phase, but I came back to God eventually. It's like, okay, well, in your atheist phase, did you think about religion? Did you think about morality? Or did you just not think about shit? And now you're thinking about it again, because that's not the same. That's not the same. I didn't ignore you. I brought your fucking shit up. What the fuck else do you want? Bounzig said, did you see the video of how Dusty what? I don't know what that means.
And so anyways, just so you're like, dude, this is an act. Or even maybe that was an act. But something here is an act.
I think, I mean, and by the way, it's also a non sequitur. It's like, okay, you know, I said something you disagree with years ago, but assess what I just said about something completely.
Right.
Like, what does that have to do? It's like, you know, I catch you stealing from me and you're like, well, you got drunk in college and slept with a hooker. It's like, well, okay, but it was good for me. Like, what? But I think in Joe's case, and in the case of most people, like the hatred is really self-hatred, obviously. You know, happy people are not, they may be annoyed. You know what I mean?
Self-hatred. Self-hatred has to be the number one thing at the core of leftism. Not liberalism, leftism. Self-hatred. There's no other way. There's no other way that you could have such vile and disgusting views of humanity and America unless you are projecting how you feel about yourself onto the rest of society. I refuse to believe that there is any way that you could be a blue-haired leftist and not hate yourself. I don't accept it. I'm willing to have the conversation, but I do not accept it. So I mean, you know, I think it's a strong thing when we can break apart like the different aspects of like Dave and Tucker are very different people. But when it comes to many issues, they're both like, okay, we agree that this needs to be done. This is the right answer. And when it comes to a binary, and it's like, okay, well, there's no perfect answer, but we have A or B. And A is clearly better than B. But then you dig down into the minutia a little bit more and the nuance. And it's like, they're very different people. Very different people with very different ideas, very different thoughts, very different perspectives, and very different answers on how to solve the issues that they see. But it's not just about being right. It's not just about, hey, here's the thing that I think. Do you agree with me or are you wrong? That's so much of what happens on the left. And fortunately, we don't see it as much on the right. And I think that is going to be a fundamental reason why people who are like us, and I say us, not that we are conservatives, not that we are any particular Christian, but people who are like us, that want conversation. We want true intellectual diversity. We want the real liberty to live the type of life that any American wants to live, that they can live that. That's what we want. They just want to steamroll everything. And so there's more people who disagree with each other but don't want everything steamrolled than there are a small group of people who agree to the T on everything, who are willing to steamroll everything. And as soon as we realize that, then it's just a matter of teaming up and being like, all right, well, we're the normal ones. You're the weird ones. Get the fuck out. It is that simple. Mike said, I went from a super conservative to more libertarian. And that makes sense as well, where it's like, okay, I definitely don't like, the liberal BS, but also then you could see the right wing has a lot of issues too, and warmongering and all that bullshit. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of people go from conservative to libertarian, and I consider myself more libertarian than conservative. I don't consider myself conservative. I just stopped fighting. Like I just stopped fighting the label because I'm certainly not a liberal anymore. But yeah, that makes sense. It's when you go from conservative to liberal that just doesn't make any sense. Bonzig said all those old Twitch streamers are still immature. Little imagination too. Anyways, for okay. Well, what the fuck? Well, don't do that to me. So I don't know, guys. I think it's we have there's a lot that can happen. We are in a weird spot when it comes to an election season, that we have just over a year, but we're heading into the holidays. So there's probably not going to be anything big. It's just, this is the time to get a lay of the land. Where is everything? Because right after the holidays, things are going to start happening. And they are going to continue happening all throughout the year until Election Day. Until Election Day. How many days before the election was the Hunter laptop thing? So it is going to continue. So we are in the maybe you want to call it the eye of the storm, but this is the darkest before the dawn. This is a time where we want to make sure that as this shit revs up and gets ready to go, that we are ready to go. And the only way to do that is to pay attention, know exactly what we think of this person, that person, that person, what we think of this issue, that issue, and how this issue changing or that person saying this, how does that change the whole thing? It's all a game of chess. If we don't familiarize ourselves with where the pieces are right now, then when they make their next move, we won't know what to do. Let's be prepared. Let's be prepared. Shout out to Opus for the comment of the night. Thank you, sir. And of course, let's shout out Zippy the Strange for not only signing up as a new member, but gifting Ray Pest a membership. Thank you, sir. Very, very, very much appreciated. Then we had Stephanie Miller. Thank you so much. Hanging out with Virgil, asking about, his issues. And of course, our co-sponsors, we had Uncle Junior Network and the #1 American Raw. Thank you so much, guys. I can't do this without you. Thank you so much. And it's very, very much appreciated. Indeed, is going to be a wild ride. But guys, the party is not over. If you are a member, head over to Discord, and we are starting the after party right now. Thank you so much for hanging out. Once again, I've been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here. Peace.